Damn, Gary, some serious gourmet. What flavor is this?
That's right, it's the all-hell medium roast private blend. Check out the Geek Grind Coffee Nerdrotic page for our other options like the Decadent, Feathers of Liberty, vanilla-infused flavored coffee. Or if you're looking for something darker, try the Dark Roast FNT blend of the Fellowship. You know what? Just buy all three. GeekGrindCoffee.com. Use discount code Nerdrotic.
Nerdrotic.com.
Welcome, travelers, to the fringes of reality, where the strange and mysterious meet, and the thin veil between fact and fiction is torn. Welcome to the Forbidden Frontier.
Look at all those simps saying hi to X-Ray Girl now. Look at that.
Wow.
Hi.
Wow. It's like we don't exist.
We're here too, okay?
Okay.
I'm just excited Andreas is here with us.
I feel like two X's are better than one, so that also helps.
There you go.
Hey.
There you go. If we get a third X. never mind.
Director X.
Oh yeah,
Hey, Director X.
No.
probably
no,
have
no,
to get
no,
pay per
no.
view at that point with 3X.
Not his kind of show. I don't
Well,
I think Director X watched us for a long time.
Yeah.
I do too.
like as a fan or as a hater?
Yeah. Well, he said he subscribed to some of the channels.
yeah.
He said that, and then he brought up a reference to Jeremy that he hasn't used in a long time. You know, coming to you with another video. He brought that up in a tweet. I'm like, oh, he's been watching.
Oh,
Well, if he's been watching, why don't you make a better show? I don't...
Yeah.
It's a good point.
true.
It's a good
I mean,
point.
it's not like we haven't been giving you unsolicited advice for 4 or 5 years on how to change things.
All
Yeah.
free, you
Wait,
know?
why is he surprised at all that would be the takes that you guys all took anyway? Then it's like, do you watch or don't you?
You know, English people don't give a crap about Robin Hood.
yeah, unless you're a Tory, and even then, good point.
And even then.
yeah. Well, oh my word. I saw that you
Welcome.
do a show with Chris Gore, by the way. I just want to say, like, I'm a weird schoolgirl of a fan for like Chris Gore. I loved Tech TV and the G4 because I'm a nerd. So it's kind of, I was like, what? That's crazy. So I just want to say that's pretty awesome. Good job.
Yeah, it's bizarre, you know, because people from Tech TV way back in the day used to shop at my store. So
there you are.
back when that started, I remember the whole thing and being sold out. And yeah, watch the
Yeah, Tech
documentary.
TV
It's great.
people are a weird cult. I'm glad you found us. It's important.
Yes. Well, this is a weird show. I'm a weird person. I fly my freak flag with no problems.
It's
I
good
wish
to
the
actually.
freak-
Sorry, I was gonna say it's good to see you again because like last time I saw you, like we were both under like the auspices of like a ghosted haunted mansion. So it's nice to have escaped.
Yes, it is.
Oh, when he did
Yeah.
Gymcast?
Yeah.
Oh, wait,
You
I
were
didn't
still
say.
there?
Whoa, let's close. The
I said it.
Oh.
I said it.
Oh,
I
good
said
point.
it.
Yeah.
I said it. All right, I'm allowed. I never signed an NDA, so I can say these things.
Superstar.
Well, you signed it. Oh, I didn't give you your NDA, Adam.
Oh,
X-Ray
you
Girl,
have to
could you
sign our
email
NDA.
Adam his NDA where I own all his music and all of his content
In perpetuity.
Yeah.
in perpetuity
have to get in a hot
Since
tub
we've
with
been
you.
on the
in all
internet
universes in the multiverse?
I ain't signing it. I ain't signing it.
We'll go in the multiverse and find an Atom that will sign it.
Yes, we
It was
will.
at this moment. It was at this moment that I knew I fucked up.
ever. Oh my goodness.
Welcome.
This is about that Stargate One Piece
It
shit
really
opinion,
is.
isn't
It's
it?
always going to come back down to that.
All's
don't
I'll
I
wanna-
knew
say
you were
about
gonna hold it against me.
all I'll say is I don't need to put up a poll to reinforce my opinion. Okay, my opinion is my opinion. I don't care if people like it or not.
You need a more presentist perspective, because I agree with you at the time that it wasn't as good as Joss Whedon's Buffy, for instance. But today, if you compared it to like the writer's strike and nothing on TV, Stargate is better than what we have now. So it's not like a, the Stargate movie versus Batman or something.
The Stargate movie is better. Yeah, for one. I'm fine with the TV show. I'm actually watching the TV show and enjoying the TV show.
See, I knew I was going to mention, because compare that to like whatever's on Apple
The
TV.
movie sucks. I will not watch it again.
Can you give me a second, please?
Scientist is Ian Crossland. You get that, right? It's based on Ian Crossland.
One sec. All right, please. I just need to say, Gary, we both are correct. All right?
Sure. And
sure.
We agree?
Yes.
We're both correct.
Nah.
Yeah.
All right, good.
But I'm just going to roast you on Twitter, and
But I want to tie it all back. I want Tartaria. Tartaria's going to tie it all back to Stargate, which is really crazy and sad and awesome and wonderful.
You should make a video about that.
I mean, if they exist, but yeah, we can. You'll see.
Adam, I was going to roast you about being like a Jay Davidson simp, but then I'm like, oh, there's one in One Piece too.
One Piece is cool. I like One Piece.
Kobe.
Yeah.
Kobe is a girl. So I had to be very careful about that in my review, because there's no way I was going to call Kobe a dude. So
it's
I found a way around it. Yeah.
The character is just does the same thing the entire.
The weakest
that's
character.
my least favorite character. Or
the weakest character for sure.
Enjoyed character. Yeah, it's terrible. It's like
I wouldn't say terrible. It's weakest character, but like
of the group.
That person who identifies as a boy who's going to look like a teenage boy the rest of their life really is helped out by Garp, the guy who plays Garp. He's freaking brilliant, and he's so good, and a positive male mentor in a way. But One Piece should be out tomorrow.
Is that the guy's son that gets
not
haircut?
that
No. Garp is the Marine. It's
you watched only 2 episodes. I don't think he shows up till the
third
episode.
Oh, the grandfather. Okay, yeah.
Have you ever read Garp or like seen the movie with Robin Williams? Where,
yes. World According to Garp. Yes.
Yeah. Pretty sure there's a lot of tie-in with that. They're doing that on purpose.
Whoa. Yeah. John Lithgow plays a transvestite in that, right?
So the other thing is that he's obsessed in that with the Wizard of Oz. And have you read the Wizard of Oz, the second one, where like the little boy Ozma finds out he's a woman? Like he's trying to find the princess the whole movie or the whole book, and then the witch has turned her into a boy, so he doesn't know he was the princess, and eventually you're like, at the end of this, put this book down, but it's like 1907.
Yeah, they're probably on opium and cocaine, so
and Theosophic Society. Yeah, it was pretty crazy at the time.
Welcome to Forbidden Frontier, everyone. We have watched a Netflix series that just came out a week ago.
That long now.
Encounters. Which was produced by Amblin Entertainment. So I came in very skeptical because that's Spielberg's production.
Yeah, didn't
company.
they do E.T.? That was what I was thinking.
Yes. Yeah, and he still owns it. He's always kind of owned it, and its offices were at Universal, I think, for the longest time. I think they still are, but he went away for a little while, and now he's back at Amblin. That's where Kathleen Kennedy came from too. Amblin Entertainment.
It's really well produced. Like it's shot very well. They have great interviews. It's really well produced.
And then we'll get into some other stuff that Andreas probably knows a thing or two about. He can educate us on. He can learn us on the stuff. Hello, Quarter Black Garrett.
Hey, what's up? I'm ready to talk about this. I watched the first 2 episodes. I didn't get to the rest. How many are there total? Like 6?
4.
Oh, there's only 4. So I watched half of it. I really like the first 2 episodes.
Really good. The last one,
2 are the best ones.
Yeah.
So yeah, I gotta watch the last 2. But yeah, the first 2 are really interesting. The stuff that we've actually covered on this show already, but it was just really nice to see kind of like our super well produced, and they actually got really good interviews with like the African school kids all grown up. They had good interviews. There's a part that Adam was talking about before we streamed that was really good too. So yeah, it was really good. I liked it.
We'll get into it.
We'll get into it. Hi, Adam.
Hey, this is one of my favorite UFO documentaries that I've watched in my research for this show. They did a really good job of. It felt like they were trying to debunk it as well as prove it to be true. There was some cross examination. It felt like along the way, and also it alluded to some more scientific versions of aliens and stuff. That's in the third episode. There was something that really stuck with me. I loved it. I thought this was fantastic, and the last episode really was just, man, it was so cool and
So cool.
and that was my favorite episode. To the point of I will watch it again. Like it was that good. Like I really enjoyed it, and there was so many things about that, and we'll talk about it. But the Japanese culture it was amazing how that integrated with them seeing UFOs and how they treated it. I'm just really excited, and I'm looking forward to tonight. This is great. They were fantastic. I suggest everyone watches it.
Agreed. And they get into the Japanese culture in a spiritual way that's pretty freaking awesome. That
Agreed.
It really evolved.
Mm-hmm.
Very evolved point of view towards UFOs specifically. Hello, wait.
People.
Although it is an ethno state. Speaking of Japanese people, hello, Exodus.
Oh my God. Not even Japanese, but I'll take it. I really enjoy sushi and ramen. But hi chat. We started the stream early, and even when we're early, you guys complain. How is that possible?
They were excited.
Dude,
That was
when the rain
excitement.
comes, you run and find the shade.
Well,
You know.
Either way, we're here. I'm so excited for this episode, and I actually can't wait to learn about the stuff with Tartaria, or is it Tartaria?
Go for it. Actually,
Tomato, tomato.
vowels you have to buy. It's a totally that's real. You know, they didn't write them down originally. So
Oh, I just think tartar. That's why.
yeah, you're
I
right.
love tartar.
What incarnation is Tartaria? I agree. Yeah, we're getting there.
Tartar sauce.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Steak tartare. All of this is
I love
connected.
tartar.
Blows my mind.
Yeah.
But it is.
But anyways, I'm excited. Let's go.
Let's go. And we have a special guest. How am I supposed to pronounce your last name? Xirtus?
Xirtus or Xirtus.
Xirtus?
I like how French you took it. See,
Xavier?
I'm always curious if they're going to go French or Greek with it.
Andreas X? Can I just
Yeah.
call you Andreas X, like Director
Or
X?
Muhammad Ali. I don't mind.
Yeah.
It's whatever you prefer. All right, do you want me just to start ranting a little bit? Or
Sure.
Cool. Okay, so here's the deal. Tartaria, Tartary, if you started to look into the history of China, you know, and you're like, there was a lot of countries in China at one point. 300 cultures exist sort of today. We think of like the Uyghurs and the Tibetans, but actually there's still like about 50 languages left. And a lot of them have just sort of disappeared, right? So China also was a lot bigger and it had connections to Russia. And and especially Uyghurs had connections in Tatarstan, and that's a country now. But Tatarstan connects to Uzbekistan and all these other countries. So eventually what you start to see is that Russia and China were all part of this larger country. And there are a lot of people who wrote about this 1,000 years ago. You know, like in the 12th century, you've got Friar William of Rubruck, who does this crazy expedition where he walks across Eurasia and he's going to all of these different places and he's seeing all these different people. But you also have people you've heard about. The sun is getting right there, which is brutal. I know it. It's God. I'm leaving it.
Just coming in over your shoulder.
So it'll probably eventually work itself out. But Marco Polo, who you've heard of, is a Croatian kid, but you know everyone thinks of him as from Venetia, and scholars will argue this, but they'll put it in Wikipedia and argue with it still. Like they can't even get rid of the point that everyone knows he was from a Croatian family, because the islands between Italy and Croatia are really close to each other. I think you just recently there, so you kind of know this. But the Venetians rejected him. Because he was a sailor, he went with his father. They went away to China, to Tartary. Everything he says is the travels of Tartary, he calls it. And he's up on the north coast, and he's got specifics. Like he knows exactly about the district of government and the 32 and the 23 districts of this place and that place. It becomes very clear he was there at the specific time in like 1270s. And also 1270s is an important point because you're at the beginning of the proto-Western schism. There are two popes that are arguing, and half of Italy goes with one pope and half of Italy goes with another pope. And then this is all before three popes for 3 years are arguing with each other. And they take the roofs off a building and they put these men outside and they say, you have to pick the popes. There's no pope for 3 years. So society's falling apart in the West when Marco Polo goes over to Tartary. And then he forgets Italian or whatever the kind of Slavic Italianized language he was speaking. For 25 years, he's speaking local languages. And we're to assume it was Mandarin, right? Because, today, after so many people have been killed and died, that's obviously the Han Chinese are like the only people that we think of when we think of this whole place. And we shouldn't call it Tartary, because Tartary refers to, it'd be like by calling it China, we're talking about Qin, right? So we're talking about this ethno-state empire. So we presuppose that Tartary is not an ethno-state. If you start looking at the history of ethno-states like Japan, you can see they're interesting, but they become really refined. They don't become really expansive. You look at like these cultural states that have different kinds of peoples, have exchanged language, but have different ethnicities and different trades, different times of year, they're different kinds of religions. America, Iran, the Persian Empire, they're bigger kinds of empires, right? And they're different. So that's the biggest thing, is you start seeing that they're describing this sort of confederated group of autonomized peoples that have trade with each other, and how far it goes. And it goes all across, essentially all across the world. Like literally, I sent a map to X-Ray Girl. I don't know if you want to pull it up right now, but it's a little big file, but it'll show you, or even in general, you just get the idea that San Francisco has on this map from the 15th century city-state built up by Tartary. And people go, what? That's crazy. But if you go to the Scottish Rite Temple in San Francisco, they have a big painting of San Francisco the way it was. And they show, in 1905, there was a plague in San Francisco. There's a huge earthquake in San Francisco in 1906. And there's fires. And you can see they completely destroyed San Francisco. But there are pictures of what it looked like before. And it looked like, Athens or, Wall Street. Like the big towers and these kind of old 19th century Empire State Towers and things. And then also, so I sent this picture. This is a picture about Cordoba. So earlier I was showing in Spain, if you look at how big this empire was, they controlled all of Spain, parts of Europe.
This is AI.
North Africa. Right. This is something I just produced.
Did you put it in?
Yeah. So what I did was I described the poem.
Hold on. I'm sorry.
And then
I need
interpreted
to ask.
it.
Yeah.
You're saying that there was a city in San Francisco in the 1500s?
1560s for sure. Yeah. Yeah.
1560.
And the map file I sent X-Ray Girl shows the spots where they have placed things.
So you're referencing the Tartarian Empire that came across the Pacific?
Empire. Yeah. So it is, you've got maps of them. So what it shows is, first here, look at this. Yeah, look at this first. If you can zoom in a little bit to where it says the Tartars.
Oh, I can't. Let me just save the picture.
Sure. So what it says there is the amount of land that's owned by the different states, right? Mm-hmm. And so it shows China as this tiny little country, America, and then it shows Tartary, and it's got 5 million. So it's much bigger amount of land than anything else. And
what year was that from?
That it says at the bottom of the file, but I think it's 1740 or from 1744, and it's from records from the 12th century on.
Have you heard of the East Bay Wall?
East Bay Wall? No, explain.
I used to live in San Francisco, so I've been to that Scottish Rite Center, but I never noticed the mural. But
what's the East Bay Wall?
The East Bay Wall is here. I'll show you a picture.
Is it like
It's
because there's a lot of weird stuff in San Francisco and Oakland, including military underground stuff. Like people say that they've been doing Lockheed, demonic.
Tartary right there, number 7.
Yeah, Tartary. So look at the size of the land, right? The amount that they have of land and of content. So it's just a larger amount than anything else.
Now, is it possible that Tartary is referencing something?
Absolutely. Which referencing is a non-ethno state.
So I'm saying something in between countries, some unclaimed land. Is that what Tartary means? Unclaimed land? No, because and you can read Peter Fleming, right? Whose brother Ian Fleming is important. A little bit. James Bond and all that. But Peter Fleming wrote News from Tartary, and he tells the entire history of what was believed up to 1935 when he went to Tartary. And at that time, he's calling it Tartary because it's really only after the Manchurian plague that we start calling China Tartary, or start calling Tartary China. See, at that point, Tartary, you got Russians and Slavs and Arabs and Uyghurs and Tibetans and so many kinds of people that are all connected with each other.
and then there's a plague that removes the Manchurians. This
Keep
is
that
the
X-ray girl. Keep that around.
this is the Bay Walls. What's this,
This is the East Bay Wall. So nobody knows who built it,
dude?
why it's
yeah.
there, and it goes.
This
It
is
goes.
in San
It goes.
Francisco?
It's in it's in the East Bay. So it's in San Francisco Bay Area, and it goes for miles.
Dude,
Miles.
it looks like something out of the Slavic hills. Yeah.
Looks
That's
very.
insane.
They said it was like for cattle, but that it wouldn't work. So they have no idea.
No.
But they don't know how old it is. We don't know. But
Those
just
are
wanted to point
that's
that
from
out.
clearing fields. I mean, I live in the middle of nowhere, Sweden, and like every plot of land.
But it's
every
always
single
been
farm-
there.
Squared by that.
They have
been
no idea
pushed-
when it was built.
The rocks
Yeah,
to the
so
edge.
it also infers that somebody's doing this. And a big part of the Tartary narrative, I think that's interesting, is it fulfills the gap that the 1619 project stuff people want so badly. They want to find out that there's like more to it than the Eurocentric perspective. And there really is like a little bit more than just like what we were told by English people, but it's not like so evil as it sounds.
It's not what they want, though.
Yeah, exactly. It's like this really is a really interesting thing that like you could Netflix Marco Polo and it would be really interesting because you'd start talking about how Marco Polo probably looked more like Nerdrotic. You know what I mean? But that doesn't matter because he also had kids that looked like everybody. Because think about it, he was basically Mormon. There's like thousands of wives to Genghis Khan. So the whole thing is that, you know, yeah, it's really a lot less racist than we thought. It's the exact opposite of the 1619 project. The people used to work together. There's a bunch of examples of this, particularly in royalty. Royalty will have really far removed ethnic diversions where they've traded their children from Africa to Sweden, and everyone else is like, what? You know, like there's tons of people that were working together at this certain point, and then they break it apart because of these plagues and these wars and this isolation period, and they build this wall. And Marco Polo doesn't even talk about the wall, right? So it also kind of infers the wall is something that's in a separate place that's not part of the grander piece of Tartary, or it's part of a specific government that's being used for a certain thing, or it's a newer thing, right? And then again, the main thing is when he comes home, he starts telling them about all this stuff, and they say, "Sure, Marco Polo." I mean, it takes him a while to learn the language again too, because he's been gone for 25 years. But then they don't believe him is the point.
So let me ask you, and just to clarify for myself, Tartaria is essentially the Russia, Siberia, China, all of that entire
China.
Perfect. Look at this right here.
Well, this is a small map.
Exactly what
like,
I'm imagining.
For the
Russia's
audience, is it a lost civilization?
Yeah.
Is it a forgotten country? Both?
It's all these things. Actually, so
Okay.
First off, it's a forgotten country in the sense that right now Tatarstan exists as a country, and it exists almost as a state in the Russian Federation. But if you were to go there, you'd find the oldest versions of the Quran, which are older than Muhammad was supposedly alive, and you'll find the most beautiful Disney-style Agrabah castles and architecture, where the Persian-style geometric architecture comes from. And you'll find these crazy stories. So that picture that was AI generated, that is like pretty accurate. That's a picture of what Cordoba looks like. I've been to Cordoba in Spain. They've got a water wheel and they've got these stone streets, and they've set it up so you have abadesas. So the Muslims believe you're supposed to wash your feet all the time. So they have these paths of water that flow down the street, down these tiled channels, right? And so all over, you can find examples of their culture because you can find places like this that exist. And they exist in the desert. They exist in Africa. They exist in Spain. They exist in Alaska. They exist in California. And then they were destroyed. But you can see the wars because the Russian trade company took over the North American side of this. So there's all these disputes about how far North America goes. But if you can, X-Ray Girl, there's like that link I sent you. I think I sent you a link to like David Rumsey maps. It's going to be like a black and white map from the 1560s, because it'll show you kind of, it goes all the way. Basically, Tartary got to as far as Western Europe, controlling Spain, being in France, parts of Northern Europe. Like we're saying, this is big, this is most of Europe. This is where European Union is controlling now. And then all the way to the United States, to parts of the United States. This is
it a circular map?
I don't have the map. I think
really?
You didn't actually send that one.
Hold on, let me just see if I can find
So this
that.
thing, this spanned pretty much the entire globe. on the
Right.
northern hemisphere.
And
Pretty much
during
the
what
entire
dates again?
northern
Yeah, what
hemisphere.
were the times?
Okay, well, so we're about to get to the weirdest part, but okay,
We're
so
about to.
yeah, so
It hasn't gotten weird yet.
yeah, so
No, this is all normal stuff right now.
hopefully this map is the right version of it. Where don't I have the Here we go. Okay, sorry,
Is there another link?
that's the description of the map. This is, dude, what happened there? Give me that map.
I believe in you.
Rare maps. I got it. Okay.
No, this is
the-
Tartary. I'm from Retartary. This
Yeah.
we're talking about Tartary.
And so I think there, you start to find out in the 18th century after Napoleon, a lot of prejudicial terms start coming up about Tartary and Tarnation and, the babies of Tar.
What in Tarnation?
Yeah. So Della
Oh.
Tartaria. So when you start looking at this, if you can zoom in straight ahead, go down to straight ahead, keep going in center. And then right there, so it says Ocean of the Scythians, and then it says down, right, stop there. Sarseth, right? Sarseth. You see that area there? Zoom in
Yep.
just a little bit more so I can read that.
On the top right.
No, I mean more because I'm going to read the Latin underneath it.
Sarseth.
So it says
Sareth.
it says
Arsereth.
Sareth.
Arsereth.
Arsereth. That sounds way better.
Thank you. Arsereth. Arsereth. Yeah, Arsereth. Okay. Hic eo tribus sec Sierra. Okay, so I have this translated. Let me just find this. This says
Where's the bathroom?
Hic eo tribus secissera ot tutorium sic tartar o ru loco skith substitute. Right. So then it says in Latin, here I will separate the tribes of all of the Tartars, and the Tartars will replace the Scythians in their place. Okay. So what it's saying here is essentially you're moving in a group and that they're going to replace the Scythians, because you can see the Ocean of Scythia. This is where the Scythians are living. And you can look into the Scythian culture. No one's arguing that the Scythians exist. There's tons of, the Sith in Star Wars kind of allude to the Scythians. And the idea that Viking boats and the Eritrean boats, they have the same boats and they have a lot of similar gods.
What time period is this map based?
This map is, I think, 1530s, 1539 or something like that. So, and you've got a bunch of these maps again, like, so Marco Polo, Friar Rubruck. I had some more ones I wanted to bring up for you. You could look up John of Plano, of Carpini, and also the Arabs. The Spanish Arabs have like Rashid al-Din Hamadani, Benjamin, it was Messiana Benjamin Israel is a great Jewish rabbinical student who knew all this stuff. So what you find is that there's a group that now starts to be calling themselves the Tartars.
Just so people know what this map is, I'm going to read the description of this map.
Sure.
A very old antique map of China, Japan, Russia, and the west coast of the United States. So
right, but they don't want to say that it's
that
Tartary. It's like, why the heck can't you just call it then what it freaking is it's called Tartary at that point. So it's called that. But
it's
basically,
on the map right there,
but now
at the
what they're
bottom.
doing is that they're dividing it into ethno-states. You know what I mean? It's crazy.
Oh, so you're saying, okay, let's see if I get this right. So the Tartary is all of that all together. And then we end up separating it into those separate races and say that's this nation, that's this nation, that's this nation, when it's really all the same.
Right. And that happens within the last 800
Same
years to 500 years because the Jesuits and Freemasons, and also, like, it'll get a little weirder in a second, but the Jesuits and the Freemasons who've gone in there start to say, hey, we're going to make alliances with these certain people, and we're going to start to help this group to take over, and they destabilize regions. And so big parts of Tartary start to be destabilized, and it takes a few hundred. Yeah, it starts to break up very quickly, but basically within 200 years, it's broken up and it becomes indistinguishable because you have esoteric schools. I mean, you start learning about how the Chinese iconoclasm works, and it's not a new thing for them to just burn every book that they've ever had and start over.
Do you think the reason that we're not...
They burned a lot. They have burned a lot.
People,
what do you think the reason is that we
don't
don't have this as common knowledge? What is...
I love how Wikipedia says the Tartarian Empire. This ignores the well-documented history of Asia. There isn't a well-documented.
It's not well-documented.
Yeah, see,
what's
like
left of the well-documentation.
Yeah, it seems incredibly racist to me. Like, it's interesting. Like, if let's say a Caucasian empire did this, and said, okay, well, this is the English Empire, and it's not the Americas, or like it just seems so incredibly racist to me.
It's like a different perspective of this land and going, this is all this is
ours.
that nation, but they're like, this is Tartaria.
And there's a big reason why this has been so suppressed is because the Chinese government really, like, this is the main thing that their precedent is for, like, well, it's our history, so it's our future.
The 1,000-year empire, right? They want to drill that home. Like, no, nothing else existed. It's been China for the longest time.
Yeah.
Anything else is wrong, and you need to be burnt.
Right. Yeah. And I don't know if you want to go too much weirder with it, if you want to talk about the flamenco chronology, because you asked me about when this happened and everything, and that's the weirdest part. But we don't have to do that if you don't want.
We can get weird. Let's get weird.
Let's get weird, man.
All right, we're gonna Forbidden Frontier. Just gotta get ready. Okay, so here's the deal. If you're going to look at the history of Freemasonry, like, you have to understand that Morals and Dogma by Albert Pike sets the stage for when we divorce ourselves from the Jesuit empire, because at a certain point the Jesuits are running America. They're running a lot of the places that used to be Tartary. Paraguay is this perfect state, 100% literacy. There's scientists and educate. Triple Alliance War happens, kills 99% of the population of Paraguay. Similar things are happening all over the Western Hemisphere and also in Asia, right? Like Macau was destroyed, Singapore was destroyed. You can look at pictures of Singapore 200 years ago. Again, looks like Connecticut. You got these like marble, stone, brick buildings. It's all the same as it was here. Taiwan, same thing. Taiwan used to be called Formosa. Formosa had indigenous people that looked very much like Choctaw, or, the different Native Americans from the Western Hemisphere, because they're connected with each other back and forth. They had feathers in their, like, it's non-Indians that wear feathers. Like, they're literally, they're the same connections. So there's all that. And then you start looking at the culture in Yazidi and the Uyghur culture in Asia. And this idea that there's a proto Islam, right? Something that was before this militarized new radical thing that we like beat people with, but don't understand it. There was something else before that seems to have existed. And it gets really confusing when we're trying to find out when that happened, because the Jesuits have this calendar, right? The Jesuits need this calendar to tell you that they're in charge, that you can't have babies if you're a priest, that if we take over your town, because we have these pseudo-Isidorian decrees, right? That those are real. These coffee stained pieces of paper are definitely 1,000 years old, except they're not. They're counterfeits. They're made by the church, and we've proven that. So a bunch of our history is alive. Best example, Jesuits were...
Where have we proved that?
Okay, again,
not to defend or so whatever, but
we're
like you say that, and I want to go into it.
We're about to explain it in one thing. So the Pope at the time that the Jesuits in the 17th century were in charge of the Catholic Church was after the Jesuits tried to blow up King John in Portugal, right? There was an stage an explosion outside his gate, and he survived. He had the Jesuits all excommunicated. This began the end of the Jesuits. The Jesuits were not part of the Catholic Church. They were to be burned at the stake, all this horrible stuff. The Franciscans were given all their land, right, etc. Then they end up manipulating a guy into power who's secretly a Jesuit. He kills the other people, and they dig up the body of the Pope who excommunicated them. They excommunicate his body, pull him down from heaven, put him in hell, and burn all the books. So at that point, for we don't know, 50, 70 years or something like that, it's just gone.
When was this?
This is what year 17, was this is 1720 to 1741, something like that. I mean, in our timeline. Because then the thing about that is this. All of this we know because George Washington and like Benjamin Franklin, they had to fix the calendar. The Napoleonic calendar, the Gregorian calendar, there's a point where 11 days are missing in 1779 or something like that. And the birthday of the president's moved. He's like, okay, look, I don't care anymore, but I'm going to eat my cake on President's Day, okay? Because that's when I was born. But that's what that's about. George Washington was born on President's Day, but he has to pretend his birthday was, according to the calendar, this other day. So all of the calendars had to shift when they started to realize this. And the pseudo-Isidorian decrees...
You think this is out of error or of malice?
What does the pseudo-Isidorian decrees say? Okay, so the pseudo-Isidorian decrees say that because the Catholic Church believes you have to be a celibate monk, you can't have babies. So the church will always control your town. Like, you can't... Like, before this, a priest is an educated man who loves God and has a family that he takes care of and has kids that take care of it, and the church is like a part of the community, almost like a reasonable business. After that, it becomes a con, completely, and they're taking over your town. And then you have this altar boy initiative where you have foundlings, because you have unmarried women having children, which then have fathers that run all over the world and control this. And this is literally what ends up happening. Like, and then you have foundling trains, right? Then you have orphanages. Then you have, so my buddy, you like, oh God, Nerdrotic, you like Echo the Dolphin, I hope, the Sega game.
The Sega game?
Yeah. No.
You ask him about games?
I thought you knew about Echo. It's
He's
1990.
Don't ask.
It's from 1990. All right,
Don't ask him about it.
Don't worry about it.
I was preoccupied in 1990.
I don't blame you.
Echo 1, Echo 2, you asked the wrong guy.
Point doesn't really matter. Point is his name. The guy who made this game, his name is Annunziata. Annunziata is because 400 years ago, some baby was put into the Annunziata church in Italy, near the volcano of Annunziata, where they believe that everyone was killed by this volcano. And it's a big mouth that's in this church outside, like it's about the size of a dumpster. And you put the baby into the mouth of this thing, and you close it. And then the baby comes out the other side. The nuns take the baby, right? And then they just name him from the Church of Annunziata. And there's just hundreds of thousands of people that this happened to. And they'll just take 10,000 babies from Canada and bring them to Russia, take Russian babies and bring them to Australia. And like, so there's this huge movement populations that starts to emerge where they start moving everyone out of place. And so all of a sudden it's really confusing who's who after that point.
Okay, so I'm just going to clarify now. So the fall of Tartaria, or not necessarily the fall, more of like breaking apart the different empires within it, because it feels like Tartaria was almost like a continent with a bunch of different countries that worked together and had like trade relations, right? And then they
like a European Union, like United States, or was it a nation?
Right.
Did it have a leader, like
didn't feel like it was a nation,
a prime minister, a king?
It wasn't a nation.
So it sounds like there is a nation. And so on top of the levels of there being a confederated group of people that are living on other sides of the equator for endless summer trade, which is the basic point and premise of why you establish these seaport colonies. You then develop a relationship between two kinds of groups. You've got seafarers, and then you have the land power. And the land power is in charge of producing the capital, and the sea power is in charge of exchanging the capital. And so
there was a group that controlled all of Tartaria, though.
So
like, was it a king, a monarchy?
So a priesthood. So according to if you start to read into like the Carpini documents, or like if you read into like Thornton's control of the British Empire, and they start talking about the priesthoods, what you see is this idea of Akhenaten in Egypt leaves Egypt, and when this happens, according to Josephus, Moses appears, right? And all of a sudden, these 12 tribes, these lost 10 tribes, there becomes 2 tribes that most people at this point associate with the Tartars. And into the 19th century, it becomes kind of a popular Tartars and Ashkenazi and certain groups that have similar linguistic connections. The idea that there are probably a connection to a priesthood tribe that comes out of Egypt that is associated with the lost 10 tribes. And so they end up in a centric point. If you look at that map earlier, when we look at this big country, we're looking at Khazaria, right, out of Georgia and Khazaria. And so the Khazarian Empire controls the Umayyad Caliphate, controls Spain, gets up into France, has people in Germany, has people that are going across the world. And it's looking like what you have. I mean, so part of the other thing is on all the maps, you see pictures of these tabernacles. So it almost looks like circus tents. All over the maps, wherever you see the Tartars have set up, there are these circus tents. And it's because that's their religious, they're not allowed, according to their religion, to build temples. They can in a certain circumstance, but they haven't followed the rules, and they have to set up the precedent for it. So you have the first temple, which it ends in like the 6th century. And then you have the second temple, which ends in like 60 AD, right? And so between those points and after, what they're forced to do is to perform their rituals and their ceremonies. They have to build these really elaborate giant tents and move them around. So this ties into the Mongols and the Genghis Khan culture. We start to see that there's a nomadic culture that's really amazing, really clean, but they're not allowed to build stone buildings for a while. And it's shown that they're smashing other buildings in their way, and they have some sort of belief in this.
Okay, so it's like the guy in John Wick who sits above the table, You guys know what I'm talking about?
Yep.
John Wick, where he goes in the desert, like keep walking until you can't walk anymore, and then they'll find you if you're lucky. And it's like it's this
Yeah.
nomadic dude in this beautiful elaborate tent, but he's like controls all of the assassins on the entire planet. You know,
Yep.
or
It seems like it became
different
that way.
situation, but
But
similar.
then it seems like also at some point something changed because there's a clandestine effort to destroy it, and now there are temples everywhere, right? This idea of building these giant temples, like you can't even build a building now unless you follow Masonic temple ordinances to like building code is to build a temple. Like you can't just have like a teepee, so like they've set it up so that our society is all about building these temples, which can be used for these ceremonial magical purposes. And that is directly, some group that has been trying to fight with this confederated Tartar group. And we can see it in the 17th and the 19th century because the Morals and Dogma book talks about how they haven't used it properly. And so their right will be taken from them. And it's, George Washington talks about like the Jacob manifest destiny. Actually, everyone's like, where does manifest destiny come from? Well, it comes from this belief that the Tars have not really done what they need to do, and that they haven't really, they've been given this gold and they've buried it. And there's a lot of these stories about that idea. So they said we need to manifest this American civil religion that's going to replace it. And so America starts to say we're going to inherit Tartary, the United States government. And then you can see, like, at that point, what they do. They start to assimilate stories, they assimilate mythology.
And then the CIA was born.
About 100 years later, but yeah.
Well, then, let's be real. That's just the natural evolution.
Let's go back to the beginning. So where did it start?
Okay, so wait. The thing that's
Tartary, where does it start? Where does it begin?
The important thing about this is the Fomenko. So Anatoly Fomenko was a Russian chronologer who was trying to figure out when did this exist? How long ago does this happen? And this is why this kind of thing offends people more. Like Graham Hancock's getting in trouble for talking about things that happened before hominids became a single species. You wonder what they're going to say when we're talking about things that are supposedly happening during our own last couple thousand years, right? This is all stuff that directly impacts your family and people's ancestors. So it can be, things that really upset people. But basically, the last 2,000 years happened in the last 2,000 years of events that happened within the last 1,000 years, and they've been doubled and shuffled. Because the Jesuits, when they got back in power, they had to erase books, replace books, and there's already an issue going where Ottomans have controlled Turkey, right? Well, Turkey's where the church was, and they had to move to Rome. They weren't from Rome, right? Like they were in Istanbul or in Constantinople. So they had to pretend that wasn't happening while there was other things happening. And then simultaneously, the Catholic Church, which I used to think was like, oh man, that's cool how they go around assimilating people's gods and make them into saints instead of just erasing them. No, because what that does is makes it really convoluted and hard to tell when or what was Catholic and what is the native culture that they've assimilated. So they've done a really good job erasing these pagan cultures by just saying those are all part of our, upbringing.
So Tartary could be a nation, like several nations that all their official belief system is a certain
There's
religion.
so much more to it. So then the Etruscans, the Tarpeians have the Independence Day in Italy is the raping of Tarpeia, right? Where they raped a bunch of women and Tarpeia threw herself off a cliff, the sacking of the Sabines. That's because Etruscans were Tars as well. The Thracians, Taratians were Tars. And all of this culture was erased. Satanists in the 15th century and before used to try to pray backwards because the Roman prayers are, if you look at Roman alphabet, are mirror prints backwards of the Etruscan alphabet. So there's a cultural erasure that happens. The Spanish Inquisition, they invent new language. You think people weren't literate? Spain was the most literate country in the world. Every country was. Germany had Turkey. Austria spoke Turkish, right? Like you had all of these people around Austria that were Janissaries. There's so many people that were speaking and having part of a different culture that was just erased. And it's impossible to understand that the entire culture that we believe happened in the last 2,000 years are just events that were, some of them true, organized into a fake chronology by priests who in an
Where did you
immersion
find
school,
this out? Where is this from?
Well, Anatoly Fomenko, I think, is the first chronologist from the Soviet Union in the 30s to start putting together and compiling all of the different events. For instance, finding the birthdays and death days of kings and their 10 sons in line, and other birthdays and death days of other kings, which were exact and identical for other 10 lines. And so we made these chronological maps to show, okay, well, this line of kings in Latvia is the same line of kings that happened supposedly 500 years later in, with the same birthdays and death days in a row. It's just too uncanny. Unless you're Terrence McKenna and you're saying that this is all just matrix synchronicity, which is cool too, I guess.
Wow.
Well, and if you wanted to erase the past, what would you do? You'd go and invade cultures and burn all of their books.
Well,
and that's what happened in South America.
Yeah, and then there was the ones
Mayan culture.
And
the Mayan culture in China, they burned their own books.
Right.
Library of Alexandria. We can go on and on. There's a
But
bunch of
their own is a weird way to put it again, because one group decides to burn everybody else's
or
books,
burn
now
a set of books.
Yeah. Like like what if the woke burned our books? Would we say we burned our books?
Oh, they are.
You know what I mean?
Theoretically.
yeah, if they had the power to do that, they absolutely would.
Yeah.
And then people going forward would never know what happened before that, and we'd be completely in the spot we are now with the past.
Right.
Well, we're getting more history, finding out that we've been around a lot longer than the academics say, and the narrative that we're given, and it could go back an insane amount of time, and other hominids could have been intelligent at the time and building houses 200
Pretty convinced.
Sorry, half a million years ago. So so the thought of our history kind of being at least half a lie is very believable. It's
also half just we try to understand based on what we already know. So I understand how people would, taking what they understand, think that this is the full, complete history. I don't think everyone's lying about it, but I think some people legitimately are. And, when you think about the idea that Jesus was 1,000 years ago versus 2,000 years ago, not a huge difference, but if it was 100 years around the time, so it's like 1,100 years versus within your grandparents' life that Jesus died. Like, yeah, my grandparents knew Jesus. That was when this happened, right? When the chronology started to shift, that they doubled the 1,000 years thing. So all of a sudden you've got this dude living in Damascus. So we've got a guy living in Turkey with, like, we saw those pictures. It's like pretty modern. It's not ancient times. And he's going to Egypt. He's going to Alexandria in Egypt. Jesus is living in like a different, more relative time that we should probably consider all of that, how these things are connected. And also that all of these events are designed to distance us from what was actually going on at that time. Because it sounds like he came with a sword during a time when the Tartarian Empire was being divided and when people were in the process of deciding whether or not they were going to build temples again. And child sacrifice was also a problem, right? This is something that a lot of these occult things. So the Bohemian Grove owl, the owl is there's two flags at least for Tartary. One's the griffin, the other's the owl, representing the east and the west, or perhaps representing the sea and the land. And the owl in Bohemian Grove is at a location where we have a spot exact on the map from the 1560s. So there's this, like, the Tartary thing is like connected in the most interesting ways. The most interesting
like that
people.
right there. Could we see that right now? Could you show
bring
us on the map?
Bring the map back up. Bring the map. So wait, you're saying there's a little owl in where Bohemian Grove is now?
There's a amphitheater.
On this map.
Alex Jones has been there.
Let me see if I can find.
I tried to go there. I couldn't get in.
So you said America's right here on the right.
out.
America, Novus,
Where's
Orbis.
you need the Urbano map. Where's that one?
Urbano map?
Urbano.
Bono's map.
Bono's map.
Urbano Monte 1587.
The river next to Bohemian Grove is the Russian River.
Right.
Russian River,
Yeah, exactly. That. Thank you for, by the way. It's like it's been known. It's been known. Like, people who live there know, like, what's going on. But let's see. Urbano Monte. Or Monet. Urbano Monet. That's what it is. No Monte.
I can't believe the first band to play the Sphere was frickin' U2. How disgusting is that?
I don't know if I can get a high enough resolution copy quick enough. I'm sorry. But this is the map. If you look at this map.
Everybody wants to go to that freaking stadium now, though.
Oh, I do.
Kinda crazy, isn't it?
It looks
I can't
amazing.
wait till the Vegas meetup. We're gonna go check it out.
Oh, when is that? I'm just gonna,
April.
no reason. I'll ask him for a friend.
You're gonna come out.
Okay, maybe I should.
You should.
No,
You
I
should.
should.
Yeah.
I
It's
should.
during CinemaCon.
But okay, so Urbano Monte map, and like again, if you are interested in any of this stuff, because like I think this is the idea is like if you are, you can check out the tartarinova.com, and tartarinova.com. We have all of these books and maps and everything in a Discord, and they're all organized, and you can find like a deeper. There's ways these maps have been superimposed on actual software, so you can zoom into them, and they like
can't zoom
same.
in.
Yeah, so it's hard to do on a website, but if you go through the Discord, you can go to the system, you can zoom in on it like it's actually Google Maps, but it's just 15th century map.
Okay, so on this map, you're saying that there's that owl.
So you can see
the
on
Tartarian flag where Bohemian Grove is.
Right. So you can see it about, let's see, like what would that be, like 10 o'clock on the clock right there, and then going in, or is it 9 o'clock going in? That's about the spot right there.
San Francisco is.
I'm gonna try and download this one second.
So, but there's there's tons of examples of
These VPN.
Russian settlements that are in Santa Cruz that are all the way along the north there. They have old Orthodox churches. Actually, they sent out a warning recently. The FBI was like, the Russian government might be trying to recruit from the Russian Orthodox churches in this region.
There's a lot of Russians and Ukrainians in San Francisco.
They brought. Oh, and then you got San Bruno.
A lot,
right? So I used to date a girl whose parents were both cosmonaut scientists that were brought. They had to bring them to San Bruno in order to keep.
I used to work in San Bruno.
There you go.
You are not wrong. I've got Ukrainian friends in San Francisco.
I've seen things blow up. Yeah, it's a pretty dangerous town, but good fuck, Yeah.
Good.
So,
I couldn't stand that. My wife likes pho. I fucking can't stand it.
Yeah, all right. I put up with
like
California a lot more than I ought to, but I like the Midwest meal for sure better. I miss Minnesota.
All right. So, well, I mean, this so you're saying basically with the Tartarian Empire that there might have been some travel prior to there might have been trade prior to Columbus, even though we know Columbus is bullshit, but and it was worldwide at that point. So they had outposts in America already, before Columbus got there. Okay.
For sure. And also it's in, again, speaking of 1619 Project, Moors did too. There were people from Africa that were traveling to Brazil. There are people from Africa that were trading with people in Scandinavia. We have records of this. We have literally, this is the thing.
Do you know about the Aboriginal DNA in the Amazon?
No, but that sounds about right. But
yeah, so there's Aboriginal DNA that's specific to a group of people who live within the Amazon jungle that has been there for 16,000 years. Help me out, chat. I think it's 16,000 years that Graham Hancock reported on.
Wow.
And how the hell did they get there?
Australian Aborigine?
Yes.
Kentucky rafts, I guess, right? But so one thing that's also interesting about that is Randall Carlson's super right, but he's afraid to say how recent some of it. If you look at the Aral Sea, if you look at the Lake of Guadalajara, right, which was almost dried up in the last 10, 20 years and then fixed instantly because feedback loops are amazing. You look at Mulholland, look at Bakersfield, and you start seeing how California before the gold rush, when they used to just blow up hills with dynamite and then wash them away. We did a lot. We did a lot of
there's old maps of California where the lakes are filled, the dried lakes are filled, and it's from settlers, from early settlers. Yeah.
X-Ray, can you do me one more favor? Can you pull up the Western Interior Seaway, I guess is what it's really called. It'll show you a map that they say. They used to admit this happened 1 million years ago. And they're like, all right, probably more like thousands of years ago, tens of thousands and then thousands. And then they're like, okay, maybe within the last 1,000 years. To be realistic, this map might have been not millions. It might have been really, really recent. And it's one of my favorites because it shows the mid. Yeah. Oh, fine.
Here, I think I found it.
Is it this?
There it is.
Yeah, we found the same.
So this is supposed to be at first this is the Campanian period. It must have been just millions of years ago, but then actually
millions and millions. Yeah, because Texas was still under the water.
But actually, what we find is there's plenty of evidence that this is
it.
just about what things were looking like probably within the last few thousand years or even 1,000 years. And that there might have been, you can see the coast between Missouri and Utah also, which is really interesting because this is exactly the path that's described. The Lakota have a story about arriving on shore there and it's so much of this stuff is recent history, but they want you to believe it had to have been millions of years ago. And granted, like lots of cool things did happen a long time ago, but there are things that they just can't deal with that happened recently because it'll just mess up their authority, their idea that they have.
Well, I think they could be off. Like, how in the hell do you estimate millions of years ago? I can't see that being 1,000 years ago, though, because
water.
I live here in Texas, right? And most of Texas, because I did my studying, and you can look, is all limestone. Like as far as like everywhere I'm on a giant aquifer, and it's just limestone everywhere, and it's so it takes millions of years because you know what limestone is. Limestone is it's old sea life, and it's shit, and it's everything that died compacted into stone over millions of years. It takes millions of years for that to form. So, but like 65 million years ago, it's all based on carbon dating, right? Now,
right?
Do we trust
exactly?
Do we trust the carbon dating? Carbon dating just came around when we were essentially right around the same time as the atomic bomb.
I think the problem when we say we trust or don't trust, it's like you have to understand what it is. So if there's a volcano that goes off, right, and you have instant petrification of sea life that happens because of a super steam that happens because these might be submarine volcanoes. So look at this map. Do you see where Yellowstone is? So if a super volcano goes off in this point, what it has is this instant precipitation of steam, and that steam pressure, eventually what you have. Yeah. Sorry.
No, it's like, actually, like the Yellowstone caldera is over what is a stationary hotspot on the planet. Yeah. So the crust goes over it. So there's calderas. They just found here in the United States one of the biggest lithium deposits on the planet. And it's an old Yellowstone caldera, but it's in like Oregon. So it's not Yellowstone, but it's that same hot spot where it was a volcano. And you can trace the calderas all the way into the Pacific Ocean. All the way.
And we have, so there's actually like tons of active ones right now. So I think the other thing is looking at ice and how fast things can happen. Things that we think take millions of years are often taking tens of thousands of years. And if you look at Oklo, the Gabon natural nuclear reactor fission volcano, because in Africa they found a volcano that's depleting uranium and has linear accelerators built into it. It's probable that radiation of carbon is being manipulated in other ways than we can consistently look at. We're talking about the amount of time it normally would take, but it's not like that. We're actually having these events which are very quickly aging something because we're measuring something in the particle differentiation from a point to another point after radiation.
I thought about something earlier when you first brought this up, actually. First off, the Yellowstone I learned is actually broken and open, so there's no actual building up of force, so it's not at risk of actually exploding like I always thought. I learned that recently when I was looking into it.
It's a hot spot that the crust goes over. So it's the crust moves, but that hot spot remains in the same spot. So it will eventually crawl up into Canada or whatever. I don't know what direction it's going, but
and it could blow up somewhere that there isn't a.
It's blown up many times before, but it's not like your typical. It's not building up a volcanic mountain, right? It's
it's not like Krakatoa.
Caldera. No, it's a super volcano. There's another one too in California, Long Valley, and that one is just as bad too. That's under Mammoth, right? And
but suppose there's one in San Francisco too.
So, but what I was thinking of, you remember that theory that I was telling you guys about? This is actually an interview that Bright Insight just did. With Sun Weather Guy about the micronovas every 12,000 years from the sun. And that's an alternative theory of what happened during the Younger Dryas, and that it wasn't an impact event. It was actually the plasmoids. Thank you, not Tim. It was actually the plasmoids from the sun and I learned a lot more if you watch that interview on Jibby's channel, that it can actually superheat the layer between the mantle and the crust, and what that can do is like we can basically shift all the continents can just be shifting around and move as if they're bobbing on water because it gets superheated, and it could move like who knows how much of an impact that would make, right? I mean, if you do have the isostatic depression, if that ice did melt and this was going on, like the map could look completely different.
Map could change overnight. 20 years.
15,000 years ago, who knows?
Honestly, I would love to see something that took like millions of years happen in 20 years. Like there's a term for that. Like
the things that they say that have taken millions and millions of years could be way faster if something like that happened. And then
there's
like I was saying, like Pangea, right, is this massive continent.
Instant
and
petrification.
We know it all like
read about
puzzles into each other. How did they get across? And they're like, oh, over millions and millions of years, they slowly separated.
Right.
Or if the freaking crust like liquefies and they all just go move around wherever they land, and then they just land.
Yeah. Whatever happened at the end.
Scientists say millions because it's comfortable, and also because it's an easy excuse. You're like, well, it's enough time for something to happen. But like realistically, things happen so quickly sometimes. It's incredible, and it doesn't.
It's uncomfortable
take that long.
to think about.
Yeah.
If things can happen,
it's very uncomfortable,
very quickly.
Oh
like
my
that.
gosh! Yeah.
Well,
did you guys watch the finale of the dinosaurs where like the whole world ends?
No.
Never mind.
No. Well, okay. So gradualism is a thing.
Movie.
It's like it exists. Gradualism in certain parts of the world that have just avoided cataclysms and major upheavals. But like the Appalachians are some of the oldest mountains on the planet, but then there's other planets that are other mountains that are relatively geologically speaking, freaking new.
The Andes are pretty new.
Yeah, they're new and they're huge, right? So, and the Younger Dryas, a subject that we get into a lot, that ended very quickly, and the map did change drastically. We lost tons of land with just 400 feet more of ocean. And you think about that over an entire planet, that doesn't seem like a lot, but it's a lot to cover an entire continent of land. Yep. Like the size of what did Graham say? Damn.
Well, New Zealand, there was like basically two. It lost like half of its size.
Well, there's New Sunderland, which was I mean basically where Indonesia is and stuff. It was it was huge. It was huge.
And United Kingdom was massive. I think it connected to Scandinavia.
Yeah. Like there was a lot more land in Florida.
The Younger Dryas thing is interesting
those plates
also. When you look at, well, it's not just plates. That's the thing. So there's the idea that's interesting that humans were being chased by giant birds in the Andes plains recently. That's interesting. But also it's the volcano
I think that's
thing.
the Emu War you're thinking of, and that was Australia.
In Australia.
No. There's a lot of big birds that chase a lot of big people.
Well, Forrest Galante talked about that with Joe Rogan, with the possibility of where the dragon myth came from, and he said
birds can talk.
He said, I don't necessarily believe this, but here's what people say. And it's hard to find fossilized birds because the birds had very light, hollow bones. So maybe these giant reptiles were the same. And it was very hard. And maybe you had a few of them left. Yes, you had a few of them left fighting knights or whatever back in, the knights of 10,000 years ago that aren't supposed to exist. But that's what they brought up. I mean,
well,
like
we had dragons into the 16th, 17th century, like giant birds still, like we still have condors and that are, like, and the golden eagles that used to pick up the Maori kids, and the idea of giant birds isn't that weird. And also, again, there are theropod of reptiles. So birds are reptiles. So it's
yes.
But we had there was a thing a second ago you were saying. I forget it. Go ahead.
It's all right. So I want to hear about mud floods.
Okay.
How does this all connect?
How does it all connect?
All right, I'm just saying. I'm warning
Cliff
you guys.
notes.
All right. Okay.
I don't know if it's that crazy. I mean, so here's the thing. When Ian Crossland and I used to be working we were working in Peru trying to clean up the Amazon rainforest and trying to do this whole thing. There's a big problem of mud floods in Peru at the time because infrastructure doesn't stop and the root structure isn't there, and then water comes and it'll just carry away towns. It'll carry away houses, towns. You'll see these videos of bridges going by and then trucks going by and they're just smashing into walls and trees being carried by because there's just mud flowing by and people will just be trapped under, these whole cities will be trapped under mud. And Wendy Shaw from American Dad, a friend of mine, we did an interview with her where her house was covered under mud because of the California infrastructure problems. So mud isn't like that strange of a thing, and huge amounts of mud flow. You can see in Mongolia, hills moving by at certain points, and then there are volcanic mud flumes that literally just. So that was what I was trying to say. That's it. That's what it was.
There you go.
So the mud that comes out of volcanoes, because there's like millions more volcanoes than people realize. 90 or 80 some odd % of them are underwater, and then they're producing islands all the time. And things are falling back in. So islands get lost, new islands emerge. It actually has way more common than people realize. Like there's no official amount of islands that there are in Polynesia because it changes day to day, like that kind of thing. So the volcanoes create mud flood, liquefaction creates mud flood, and also just in terms of earthquakes and any sort of water. So Russia had, I think in the 19th century, people started noticing these buildings that were basemented. And it's one thing to have a basement. It's another thing to have a door and windows in your basement. So I started finding buildings specifically like that. And like, okay, this is strange because we're also seeing in Chicago that on this street by the levee, and this is not that weird, on the street by the levee, that the building is sunk or the land has risen up and we've just covered it over. And this isn't every single example. And I think this is a problem because on YouTube, a lot of people will just point to anything and say that but there really are a lot. Like you look at Harlem, New Amsterdam, any place where the Dutch were, because the Dutch got a lot of their culture from the Tartarians because the Spanish controlled Holland. And so they used the Dutch as soldiers. And so the Dutch East Indies Company were like, we could just take this crap. They don't even know it's here at this point. They've forgotten what's happening. And so they kind of control. So a big one is Krakatoa. So Krakatoa goes down. And we have two examples of this, remember, because there's a 5th century Krakatoa and the 15th century, 17th century Krakatoa. And the 17th century Krakatoa flamenco timeline, it syncs up that these are the same Krakatoas, but you can take it as you will. It could have been 1,000 years in between. Doesn't really matter.
Flamenco is the mathematician.
Right. He's the guy who said, and a great painter, by the way, better than MC Escher. Anyway, if Krakatoa goes off, according to the story, people in England hear the explosion 7 times, right? Because the sound waves reverberate off 7. This is what everyone said in France and anywhere
like
where
the horns,
yeah,
like the 7 seals.
You know what, Garrett? I love you. That's exactly right. I'm glad you said it, not me, but that's exactly what I'm thinking when I hear that story. Anyway, Krakatoa goes off, and there's a guy, though. Everyone dies. Hundreds of thousands of people die, right? But they're all just, indigenous people. So the Dutch East Indies Company doesn't really they're just like, yeah, it was pretty bad, but I saw it. One guy says, I saw it. Oh, how did you see it? Oh, I wrote it down. The Dutch East Indies, I better tell the story. I got in a boat, rowed over there. Okay, so he's rowing over to this giant smoke thing, realizes it's happening, rows back, right? So you can imagine he's rowing for hours, I could think, to get to see this. Then he goes and he gets in a lighthouse. And then when the explosion hits, him and his family are in this lighthouse for 30 odd days underwater, right? Because the water is just over this thing and there's just steam and they're just supposedly burned, but they survived. But he's the only survivor. And so he gets to tell the story. And then the Dutch East Indies Company are like, okay, well, what else do you know about this part of Polynesia? And, let's get into Solent and Papua New Guinea. He's like, oh, yeah, there's just not a lot going on here. By the way, Papua New Guinea has 908 different languages. And they're the only other culture besides the Sumerians that could see Sirius. And they use a 64-base numeric system. But, of course, after they had pig parasites brought to them by the Spanish, there's not a lot going on there anymore. Mm-hmm. So I find that interesting, too. That's the mud flood.
That's the mud flood. Krakatoa. So the whole point of Tartaria now. Hang on.
It's a lot of information.
There's a lot to absorb.
I'm resetting my brain here.
Okay.
So what's
Tartarian upgrades
are they still around? What is their end game? Are they part of the Masons? Randall.
They're like Freemason v. Tartarians.
So the Freemasons seem to really not like the Tartarians. I've been in some talks, and I've seen like I'm pretty open-minded. You know what I mean? Like I kind of let them do their thing, but I went in a conversation with this guy. I don't want to say which one it was even, and I thought we had a nice conversation. Pretty sure similarly we explained everything, and then his audience or something, I don't know, he made it seem like he didn't want to ever talk about Tartaria again. And I think a lot of the Freemasons kind of feel that way because the precedent set in Morals and Dogma is that they stole something from them. So, that's not really the kind of thing Freemasons, like, for the most part, aren't trying to be evil, for real. Then they believe that they're like goody two shoes, trying to be the best they can be. So they don't like the idea that they stole something from the Tartars. Furthering that, the people who are the most interested in the Tartars are very interesting people. So I remember when I first was getting interested in talking about this, running into Nathaniel Rothschild, who's very interested in Tartary, and Alex Soros
of the Rothschilds and
those ones,
that
Soros, those ones,
those guys.
Okay. So the thing is, the people that seem like the most interested in it, like more than you and me, people who find that there's something to gain from the conversation, seem to be at the very top. And I did get to have an interesting conversation with Putin's, Rasputin advisor guy, Alexander Dugin. And Alexander Dugin was very, there's a lot to this. They're teaching in Russia Tartary as history in school right now. They have books, they have maps. This is all common knowledge for millions of people right now. Okay. So it's not even a thing over there.
That's Russian disinformation.
Well, okay, so we'll see what it's like when 180 million people know that, and how many billion people don't know that, and we'll see what happens. But knowledge is power, so
It is. That's what we try to do. That's why we research. I can't say I understand a 10% of it, but I'm gonna try.
Thanks for putting up with it.
Can't say I understand.
No worries. We'll read a couple super chats and get to encounters.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Wait.
Because I do think encounters is important to even to this.
Sorry, I wasn't ready there. Here we go. Quelndar for $50 on the Streamlabs side. Oh, I almost hit the wrong button. Missed Forbidden Frontier tonight, but I had a chance to see The Exorcist in the theater. Which one? It was an amazing experience, and I'm glad I didn't miss it. It was a Fathom event, and it's showing us Wednesday, October 4th, as well, in case anyone else wants to see it. Oh, why am I forgetting?
I want to see The Xirtus in the theater.
What's the mom's name again? What's the mom's name again from The Exorcist? Chat. I'm brain farting. Well, apparently she wasn't allowed in the room.
Oh, yeah.
Ellen burst in.
I saw that.
Yeah.
Ellen wasn't allowed to burst in. That's how you.
She wasn't allowed to burst in because of the patriarchy. They said that in the new one that came out.
Wait, is that
legitimately?
That was the movie scene.
The sequel. So there's a sequel that's come out this weekend. $28 million at the box office. Blumhouse, but they also unlike Blumhouse, they blew a lot of money on this thing. So it's never going to make its money back.
But does it look good at all? I mean, I've heard
it looks like shit. And I'm not going to see it just for this line. I guess the priest didn't let me in my daughter's exorcism because of the patriarchy. Yeah.
Well, that's an interesting.
Maybe?
That's an innuendo. That's an innuendo, though, because it's not about
not
the patri. It's about literally the priesthood is a patriarchy. That's
sure.
Okay, maybe not.
But it didn't need to be put in this. Maybe because of the Catholic Church. But the patriarchy is it's put in there exactly why you say Batman's a fascist. They just want to use the word patriarchy.
Batman's
and the word
based on Zorro.
Fascist.
And Batman, you know about the symbol coming from Valencia? I love it because I'm Spanish. Batman's symbol is the soccer team.
Well, Batman's a ripoff of Zorro, Shadow.
I wouldn't say a ripoff. He's amazing.
He's a ripoff, but it's okay. He's a well done ripoff.
Pretty close to the Shadow.
He's inspired.
Yeah.
But,
inspired could be a word.
He's definitely Spanish. And
Bob Kane was inspired to rip off a lot from Bill Finger, who designed Batman.
Batman's a phalangist. Believe it there.
I love Batman.
I love too.
It's my second favorite superhero.
Who's your first?
Spider-Man.
Oh, interesting.
Well, I mean, like right now it's Daredevil because
Daredevil's
Daredevil's fucking cool.
Oh,
but throughout my life it was Spider-Man. Spider-Man.
That's legit.
Don't forget the Phantom. Can't forget the Phantom.
I liked
Oh,
Green
Phantom.
Arrow a little too much for my own good, but I'm all right now.
I was watching Top Gear last night, and they were in Hungary. And they had Hungary has the best archers, and the archers didn't have like quivers. They had their they were shooting. So they had to run a race where they drove their cars in and out of hay bales, and these archers on horse had to hit targets on moving cars. These fucking badasses, they didn't have quivers. They had the arrows in their hand right there. So
yeah.
they
They're just like,
and it made me think. I was thinking of Tartar, but I can't remember the culture. Help me, chat. There was a white-ish culture that came from Mongolia that was driven out.
The Cossacks?
Yeah, and they went to Hungary, or they went to some Eastern European country, and that's where they finally settled. But I had no idea that there was a white culture that was kind of near.
Have you watched Taurus
Mongolia?
Bulba? Have you watched Taurus Bulba?
No.
Dude, Taurus Bulba is all about this 60s movie, and it's about a guy who's like, they lose their empire because the Poles take it over. It's Kiev. It's happening in Kiev when the Tartars, Cossacks control it. And he has to put his sons into Polish schools so he can take over and destroy it from the inside out. And eventually has to, but his son becomes, he loves a Polak girl. It's a pretty crazy movie.
Yul Brynner.
Yeah, great.
I want to go to Poland. Like I would have never thought I wanted to go until I watched this damn Top Gear episode. Euro Crash. It's great. It's their latest one, but they go through Eastern Europe. So Czechoslovakia, Slovakia, Poland. It's fucking gorgeous, man.
It is.
It's gorgeous. The architecture is unbelievable. Traditionalism. Reject modernity.
Embrace the future.
Embrace the future. Hey, okay, I'm gonna read a couple more, and then we'll get to Zorbu. Oh shit. Just wondering.
My man.
Yeah. Adam was complaining his ass hurt in the Discord, and now we know why. So for $25 on the Streamline side, seriously though, all I ever wanted was a quiet life. That all changed the day Adam outed me as an alien amongst Earthlings. I didn't ask for this, and I really didn't appreciate it. If I'll really appreciate it if Forbidden Frontier would give me space during this difficult time. Zorbu has feelings. I don't. Fuck your feelings, Zorbu.
Adam, I'm glad you outed me as an alien.
Oh wait, I read it out of order.
I was about to say.
Well, just interrupt me.
I did. You kept going.
No. Really interrupt me. Make me stop talking. God dang it, X-Ray Girl.
Here's a
I'm gonna
probe.
blame you. Thanks.
You're
I'll save it for later. Gary implied during FNT that I give probes because I'm gay. I'm not gay. I have relationships with women and probe all you infinite genders. And before you go playing with that Ice-T quote, oh, music, I got news for you. It means I'm Martian. Zorbu.
Thanks, Zorbu.
Zorbu. All right, so we watched Encounters. It's a 4-part documentary by Amblin, as I talked about earlier. I was very skeptical because Bad Robot I can't even remember the name, did a documentary that ended up being pretty much disinformation. And these documentaries come out all the fucking time where you think, oh, this is legit. And then it's like, it's straight up disinformation. You can fucking tell. And it's really hard to tell these days. But it was just talking to witnesses. We got very little footage. We got some great footage at the end from Fukushima. And somebody needs to do an entire documentary on the UFOs at Fukushima because they were all over the fucking place, by the way.
Oh, yeah.
I have my theories on that. We'll get to them. But, they talk about the Stephenville Lights. They talked about the Zimbabwe.
Ariel school?
Yeah, what was the name of the school?
Ariel school.
The Ariel School.
Ariel.
Was it
Yeah.
Ariel?
Like the angel? Ariel?
Sure.
Sure.
I was thinking like the Little Mermaid.
Like the fish girl.
And then
She's black.
Well, I think this stuff,
Wow.
keep going, but I
What
think
was the
that's
third
interesting
episode
thing.
again? Third.
Broadhaven in Welsh.
Oh yeah, that one was good.
In Welsh.
Where all the kids had the same story. I felt sorry for that bullied kid, by the way.
Yeah.
I know.
Sure.
Got beat up.
Horrible for him.
Actually,
Yeah,
I felt
it's
though
good,
like it was awesome because it's like, how true do you want to know this is? I feel like he knows it enough that this is happening to him, and he's like, I gotta tell you.
He wouldn't back down though. Like
Yeah,
he
that's
kept
what-
getting
Yeah.
bullied, and he's fucking ballsy, man. So
Yeah,
like,
that's rad.
the
I love
poor
that guy.
kid in that interview had a black eye. I went, oh
I
God
know.
damn it.
dude.
God, kids are horrible.
And on Wogan, so like the other thing is Wogan's the same show that they like lambasted David Icke, you know, and he like had his breakdown and they beat up his kids in school, you know. So like, Wogan's a bad dude in some ways, man.
Yep. Dude, David Icke, man, that guy sells out like Wembley.
Yeah, I saw him a couple times. I can only I saw him once, and the second time I just had to like come in and out because he's saying, but like 10 hours is a long time to talk.
10 hours is a long time. It's better to get like them. Well, I used to have his lectures on disc, right? You could download them and burn them on a thing called a disc, but now you can. Like,
I went to the granddaughter of Guadalajara's house the other week, and they had a bookshelf with like Jim Mars and all kinds of conspiracy stuff, and a well-worn like early David Icke, and I was like, "That's great. That's rad."
That's the good stuff. Yeah. Jim Mars, may he rest in peace. That guy was a fucking awesome Texan.
There's a scientist that in the third episode that said something very profound as far as I'm concerned when it comes to aliens and a potential reason why we see them in water, why we see them going into water, why we see them underwater.
Yeah.
And he goes on to explain how if you're going from planet to planet and solar system to solar system, and by the way, he also said 1 in 5 stars has a planet in the habitable zone, meaning they have liquid water. Now that's incredible. I didn't know that stat, and that's insane to think about 1 in 5 and then think about how many freaking stars there are. But he goes on to explain how if you are a race that's being able to travel through the stars, you want to find a consistent habitable place that you can go to from place to place to place. Now, liquid water would be the spot to reside in.
And why would it be this? Because it's consistent.
Because of the temperature of liquid water, you're guaranteed to be between 32 Fahrenheit and whatever boiling point is, or 0 to 100 Celsius is much easier.
Well,
you can handle the different temperatures. It's the salt crystal. So like the idea that you can send data to salt crystals in their like crystal radio sets. It's like extremophiles can live in geysers, in hot steam.
Crystals can store information. So what he said basically was that the atmosphere of planets obviously varies greatly.
Greatly.
But oceans don't.
Exactly.
And if it's from an ocean planet, where would you hide? For one, if you are here, where would you hide? Well, the place we don't have 90% of it mapped, the ocean.
And underground. And we're probably living in an alien ant farm where like most of the civilizations are under. I think that we probably have time traveling civilizations that live underground, and in order to not mess with the timeline, they have to be deep enough that they're not interfering with us.
Right under Skinwalker Ranch, maybe.
And also Telos
is the portal. That's the gate hole.
Well, there are gate holes.
It's the bonus hole. It's Earth's bonus hole.
Bonus gates.
Hey.
Brandon Frugal said 6 months till we get season 5.
Ooh.
6 months.
Yeah, that's pretty quick.
Kind of soon, actually.
That is. And Graham is currently in South America. I think he will be returning in a couple weeks because I'm going to be at a conference where he's at. I'm going to talk to Jimmy from Bright Insight.
What do you think about that's pretty rad. What do you think about the idea that aliens are us in the future? There's a bunch of articles that came out recently. They were saying
possibly.
We've talked about that, yeah.
Yeah, we have.
Yeah,
I don't know if traveling.
I kind of think that you don't think so. Why not?
Why don't I believe that they're us in the future? I think timelines. I don't think it's from a future. I think if it's anything, it's from a different dimension or a higher dimension.
Another version from the future that could be from that other, or it could be time's not linear and it's just a big old bubble.
Yeah,
right.
Timey-wimey stuff.
It could be more from the past too.
From our perception, maybe that it would be us from the future, but that's not really accurate. Right. I
like that too, that we're maybe creating new, so if we're making linear accelerators, if they're changing the line of things to happen afterwards, but based on some kind of timeline that we're on, maybe they are creating 3D printing new worlds, 1 every 5 having water, and they're based on ours. They're just sequences of logical progressions of atomic discordance.
I think the Greys are 3D printed. I think they're printed biological drones. I think why would you risk any life going that far when they don't eat, they don't crap, they just gather data, and they're just simply here to observe. We saw many different versions of what people think they are in this documentary. I thought was pretty good. It ranged from angels to demons to straight up threatening aliens to they're just here basically watching us and waiting for a right time to contact us. Yeah.
Well, if you're able to jump from body to body, right? If you can be in a gray body or you can make a new body, then you're a light being. At some point you have to be able to be in light in order as an intermediary step. So that would be kind of your mode that's like the most constant, you know?
Wouldn't you just be like, if you were the light being though, wouldn't you just be able to travel?
That's what you could travel, but wouldn't you want a body that you can manifest, that you can get into
or experience? I think that's really what it is. If you're light, what can you experience? I mean, who knows, right? But we experience things in a very different fashion because of time. Because of time, like if you're light, time doesn't mean anything to you. Every moment is an eternity and nothing, because but for us, time is everything. Time is life for us.
We'll go over episode by. Let's say the most interesting thing from the Stephenville Lights, which is a famous. I'm surprised they didn't go over. Maybe they're saving it for other seasons. The Phoenix Lights, because they're like this is all about mass eyewitnesses, right? That's what this thing is focused on: is mass eyewitness sightings. And
Brazil.
Or Brazil, which again, there's lots of
saving that.
They have to be saving it, but Stephenville is a pretty good one. We only have the most frustrating thing about Stephenville is it happened right around when everybody started having cameras and phones, but not really. So it was like 2008. We got part of a bad dash cam thing from the constable. I like that word for a cop, by the way, is constable.
Cute. That never malfunctioned ever before, and this was the only time it didn't work. So that was kind of odd.
But we did get radar data, like legit radar data.
Radar data.
And that's the most compelling thing about it, because they were about to like poo-poo this. They were going, nope, it was F-16s, and every witness is crazy. And that poor woman who's a reporter who just passed away. Lost her fucking job over it. Guy lost his marriage, and these people saw something. It radically, fundamentally changed their lives, spiritually, all the way to the core, changed their lives. Just seeing these lights, and these lights were all over the course of a few days, right? And F-16s did chase it. Then again, I remember this happening. I was listening to Art Bell. They reported on it that night. But we just didn't get a lot of footage. But the radar data is the most compelling thing, to the point where the FCC won't allow radar data. You can't get it through Freedom of Information Acts anymore.
After that moment.
Yep.
It was because of that. They released it, and they're like, look, we got this radar data. And in the radar data, you actually see just this, the one guy said, he's like, yeah, I saw it going this way. And then it turned and went up really fast. And in the radar data, it actually shows it goes from like 44 miles an hour to then turning and going north like 3,000 miles an hour. Maybe faster. I don't remember exactly.
But it was in we cannot achieve. Yeah.
But it showed on the radar. You saw the pings just go.
Are we sure we can't achieve that speed? That's the question. Because have you heard of the SR-72, like son of Blackbird? Have you looked at Mach 6 capable vehicles?
3,000 miles an hour?
Not with a human in it, I don't think. That seems crazy. But like, it's not that they can't.
I don't think
what is a hypersonic rocket? They go pretty fast. The new Russian ones.
The SR-72 can.
Well, the ones we know about. Okay, let me preface the things we know.
Good point. Good point.
So. I mean, if you can go like, that's like 4,600 miles an hour is Mach 6. And that's we don't know. They could probably go faster than that. We're not allowed to know how fast these things can go. And again, you got solid state crafts, right, which are ionic. So they're like
let me preface, we can't turn and take off like that.
Not with a person
not with a person. So
unless there's a gyroscopic thing inside of it.
But it's 2008. It's not like 2023. This is 2008.
Lockheed's existed since Jack Parsons. I don't know if it's that new of an idea that they have a gyroscope inside of it.
Yes, we used to have a plane that used to go from New York to France in 2 hours. Yes. the Concorde
Yeah,
that burst into flame. But and a bunch of people died. That's why they stopped it.
I don't know.
But,
I'm one of those guys that thinks Lockheed has more stuff. So whenever I hear UFO, I think probably Lockheed.
I fully believe Lockheed and all of them have pieces of recovered either ancient technology that used to be us 50,000 years ago or alien. One of the two.
Or both.
Maybe both. And they're trying to reverse engineer it and maybe have succeeded to the point where they can turn it on. Do they, if we had some of that stuff, I haven't heard a good reason why it wouldn't be applied right now into our military because we'd take over the fucking world. Oh, our enemies might get it. No, because we'd take over the world so fucking fast, our enemies wouldn't have a chance. Now, part of that is we don't want to take over the world. We actually don't. We want to be the police. We want to influence shit, but we don't want to take over the world because we couldn't. It would just drain us as a country. But I haven't heard a good argument yet as to why we haven't applied some of this stuff. Not all of it, some of it. To fucking deliver packages. If we have things that can go that fast, Amazon would want them to deliver packages in little fucking drones.
Supposedly, there's supposedly like a door in Los Angeles to Florida into England, right? There are like CIA kind of things that people have said exist, but there's for specific groups.
There's the maglev train supposedly that goes under the whole country.
I think Stargates are a little bit more real than people. And that show is so bad it could only exist because it's true, right? How about that?
I think the concept of them, sure.
Wait, so the show is bad, huh?
No, I'm just trying to relate. I don't know how to. I love Stargate.
I like the show. The show improves greatly on everything that was bad.
On an already amazing base, right? The foundation, the movie. I know.
Dude, you know how hard it is for me to not like Kurt Russell in a movie? Okay?
I don't
Kurt
get
Russell's
it.
like my favorite actor. I hate him in that, and I hate him in
it.
fucking Death Proof.
I think it is, though, like the reason why that movie seems weird is because it's not a story. It's just an actual circumstance of events that happened. It's like this is just literally.
No, the concept is great. It's so poorly executed because the director does not believe in aliens or any. The director's like an atheist, non-believer of anything, and you can, and it shows. It absolutely shows. You know, Spielberg. Give him a bunch of shit. Adam's young, so he doesn't understand. Close Encounters was so fucking good because Spielberg believed in UFOs. He had legit UFO people, Dr. Alan Hynek's in the fucking movie, and they're based on other real, like Jacques Vallée. You know, these are real UFO people. So
I think they
authenticity, authenticity. Even if you're making up a story, there has to be some
authenticity. I didn't say the movie was bad. I didn't say that. All right, I said it wasn't as good as I thought. I was expecting it to be.
I think the atheist thing
so
is
such a model. Wow. I'm not.
The atheist thing.
No, I'm telling you why it's good. I don't give a shit if you like it or not.
The atheist thing is useful because you got a group of people that don't have any faith in something, so they have to kind of create they're concocting their idea of what exists. I used to think simulation theory was super trite. Right, because like we already have spirituality, but now I'm thinking actually it's like terminology, like the way you can describe parts of a guitar. So you know the way it's helping people get closer back to God and to spirituality or whatever the omega point of this is. It might be a useful thing because they're saying, oh well, that's not God, that's nature. Okay, well whatever you call it, go with that. Start understanding the mechanisms.
No,
of that.
I feel the same way about the simulation theory. I thought it was complete bullshit. Now I'm like.
It'll help me talk to you. Yeah,
there's a lot of glitches in the Matrix. Okay,
there's miracles. I've seen a lot of miracles. I've seen a lot of glitches. Whatever.
There's a lot of weird. I don't think there's any doubt. We live in a weird place that we're still a bunch of simians running around thinking we're monkeys with guns and money.
Let's imagine for a second that humanity evolves, or some civilization did already, right, to a point where they hit singularity. Okay, so now this whole civilization becomes oneness, and they are all powerful, all knowing, omnipotent, omnipresent. They can live forever, and then they decide they're going to create a celestial bureaucracy to control everything. Angels, these mechanisms that run it for them. But that's not enough, right? So to build a little version of itself in a simulated Eden that they can actually control, it's like a godhead that they can watch and study. But that thing, it might be like too powerful if it wasn't good. So give it mortality.
Maybe
control it.
We're just a simulated history, and we're just playing it through, and they're observing their own history that they've already done, but we're just
we're the characters.
Yeah.
Well, what he just
why
said,
would they simulate this era in
I've
history,
dropped acid.
You know,
I've done
this is
shrooms.
amazing.
I've thought about this shit.
Because of Philip
this
K.
time
Dick.
is amazing.
Hold
You know
on.
why?
Andreas, what you just said reminds me of what Gary posted. I think it was earlier today. That clip from, I believe, is Doctor Who, right? I don't know Doctor Who, but
Yes,
it looks like one of the doctors, and he's talking about these two that have, I guess, like the decision of some war.
They to set it up. There's a red
thanks.
box and a blue box between Kate Leftwich Stewart, which is of Earth, and the Zygons, who are changelings, and they are going to take Earth for their own because they lost their home planet in the Time War. So what the Doctor set up was a scale model of war, which is basically you hit this little button in the box. One of you have a 50-50 chance. You don't know. One of you is going to win. The other one is going to completely die out. So he just makes a scale model of war and he goes, go for it. Hit it. And then they're like, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. And he's like, okay, do it. And then he starts asking him questions like, so what are you going to do about the troublemakers? You know, the people like you, once you've made everything perfect, what do you do about the troublemakers? What do you do about people like you? And she goes, well, we're going to win. He's all, you might not. But here's the problem. Why don't you not? Why don't you just not press the button? So he's trying to like, why don't we de-escalate this? But it's such a great fucking speech considering what's going on right now.
Facts. Well,
yeah.
the key though is, what are you going to do with the people like you? Like Andreas just said, like, all right, well, what if they create this like utopia perfect, you know, exactly as they want, but like, there's always going to be the person who thinks that they have the better version of what that is.
Yeah, I think
and
the Matrix gets into that.
Between
the
those
Matrix,
two people.
yeah, that's kind of the thesis of
which,
the Matrix.
Which the Matrix stole from a gazillion things. I understand that, but like the most people will know it from the Matrix is, you know, we gave you utopia and you hated it, you rejected it, you completely rejected it because yes, strife and suffering is how we learn. You know, it's on varying degrees.
The Gnostics believe that Yaldabaoth of the Demiurges created us, and it wasn't like a good thing, and that we need to escape because we've been tricked into mortality, and we ought to be able to become essentially, you know, like God again, or something, like characters that can create worlds and are good. And so I think it's interesting also how we consider that we're just supposed to fall in line. Like in the Crusades, they said you have to be a slave to the Lord. And when you die, you think you're going to be like a co-heir with Christ? No, you're going to be serving lords in heaven there too, because could you imagine not serving? I'm a lord. Like this is like, I think a sense of classism that has changed our personal philosophies, and we're supposed to get back to being free. You know?
Yep. We're on you're absolutely right, Rascal. So Elon tweeted the other, how do you beat hate? You don't.
Can't fight.
You don't. You fight it. You fight it.
Hey, you can't.
Can't fight.
That's why censorship is bullshit. I want to know who's the haters. I want to be able to beat them with better speech.
It's part of the human condition.
Truth.
And we will eventually learn our way out of it in 1,000 years. But like we can't. Maybe, but we're in the now. We can't. That's one of the practices I have from recovery is like I'm not a monk. You know, I've learned a lot of things from recovery and improved my life, but I'm not a monk. Okay?
How do you know you're not a monk? What if Philip K. Dick is right? What if it's 50 AD and the devil's playing an illusion on us so that all this magic makes sense to us? You know, and
Maybe I'm just too dumb. I don't know. But I'm not a monk. What I'm saying is I'm not this perfect being who's not going to road rage once in a while or tell somebody to fuck off because I'm a human. That's what's going to happen. But you know, you can't fight hate. There is no easy answer. Like so many people, I hate to bring this up, man, but fucking of all people, Andrew Tate had a good take. I mean, he probably borrowed it from somebody. But he was talking about the thing going on right now. And he's like, listen, most of us don't know shit about the ins and outs and the complexities of this. That's why I'm never going to, I'm not going to talk. I don't fucking know. I'm not there. So I'm just going to like hope for the best because I hate war. But that's part of this, that, you know, you don't fight. It's like, how do you defeat a major aspect of human nature? You can't. You can't. So what we do is we just try to individually, that's why I'm very much into individualism, treat people nice on an individual, you know, try to make your little world the best world you can make it by your interaction with people every day. Be nice to don't be Ryan. Don't go to Taco Bell and tell people to fuck off. Be nice to them, a little empathetic, you know. But you know what? When bad things are happening, call them out. Absolutely fucking call them out. And if it's stupid, mock it to death. don't even get angry about it. Laugh at it, because that's the best way to get rid of that shit. But as far as the whole spirituality concept of it, if we're playing out some simulation, I just wish I was a better gamer. I wish somebody would have programmed me as a better gamer.
Sounds like that's a funny thing to say after that, because like your strategy seems like the best strategy was the point. That's the way to play the game.
Yeah,
as long as he can open the damn door.
You accept. Well, let's not get crazy. Don't be hasty.
Somebody can
don't be hasty. Yeah. There's a great lesson in One Piece. Sorry, take a drink. Where Garp is talking to the little girl who identifies as a boy, and Kobe like, hey, the Marines are kind of fucked up. I'm paraphrasing. He goes, yes, they are. That's are you willing to live with that, though? You can still be a good person, and you can do the best you can within this massive organization that has good people and bad people. But it's all about, like, life is all about what are you willing to live with, and it kind of changes it. It changes the perspective, because basically saying life isn't fucking fair. Once you internalize that, it gets a lot easier. It's not fair. You're going to get some breaks, and you're not going to get some breaks, and it's fucked up, sure, but like, were you going to whine about it all day? No. Unless you're from Hollywood, then you'll whine about it all day, even when you're fucking rich, and taking the Lolita Express. Did you see? I don't know who the fuck is making these, but they're Pixar movies of memes.
Oh my god, yeah.
And the Bill Clinton on the Lolita Express as a Pixar movie was one of the darkest, funniest things I've ever fucking seen.
I haven't seen vegetarian. He says,
Well, I mean, well,
dude, after that salad in Haiti, he's
yeah, he had a lot of salad in Haiti. Yeah. Christian Nieces for $20 says, have you guys heard of Plum Island, government lab site that is being relocated to Manhattan, Kansas? Is there a Manhattan, Kansas?
I don't remember. I don't know. Yeah, there is, right?
Okay.
There is.
Relocated, so Plum Island government lab site that is being relocated to Manhattan, Kansas at the MBAF building. Tons of stories from PI, chimeras, modified viruses,
Lyme disease came from
Lyme disease breakout from a few years ago, etc.
Lyme disease probably came from Plum Island. But what's interesting is the Kansas thing, because Kansas and Missouri, right? Like that's where there's like an ancient, like, apocalyptic destruction happened in Kansas right there. And, there's a bunch of different occult story, like Wizard of Oz is all about Oz, being in Kansas essentially through a parallel reality. So there's a linear accelerator. I just found out this, how there's a 27-kilometer one in Switzerland. There's the smallest one in the world is in Kansas. It's like 7 meters or 8 meters or something like that. And it's a single person can get inside of it. And it's the Cancer Missouri Research Center.
There's one in Palo Alto too.
Yeah.
There's a huge one.
There's the Grapevine. My grandfather worked on that one. But so Kansas has got a lot of weird stuff, and I kind of believe that Kansas is the epicenter of the apocalypse, or the portal that will open up to the Garden of Eden. I know that sounds crazy. Yeah,
in a tornado, probably.
Yeah, probably.
All right, so second episode of Encounters. It was going back to that school in Zimbabwe. Yeah. Interesting. They brought in a guy who said none of this shit happened. They're all fucking making it up. All 60 kids are making it up.
Well, it wasn't just a random guy. It was a guy that was a student in the school.
He was a student in the school.
He was like a few grades ahead. He was like the older kid in the playground, and he saw like this flashy. He said that it was just a rock that happened to be really shiny that day, but it was always there. And he said, like, "Oh, look, an alien."
I think if there was somebody else corroborating him, and more people came out, right. Just knowing kids, having them stick to a story, and they mentioned this in the documentary, having 12 witnesses, adult witnesses, stick to a story, that is powerful evidence in court. By the way, it's a lawyer. He said 60 is impossible, is like literally impossible. So, and then the teacher came out and he didn't look sober. I'm
Except
just going to say
for him.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that guy did not look.
I know that look because I've had it on my face.
Right.
I know that fucking look. Little
sweating.
pills, maybe a little Coke. You know.
He's
Well, and
sweating.
they also John Mack was that Harvard psychologist who basically put his whole career on the line.
Oh, they were gonna.
Yeah, they were trying to get rid of his tenure, right? And he was like, "No, I'm going to go down there and I'm going to interview all of these kids." He's the one who went and interviewed them because we did talk about this subject before, but he was adamant. He's like, "You can't fake that fear or that emotional trigger that all of the kids that he interviewed had." And he was down there for like 10, 15 days or something like that. So like he talking to all of these kids right after it happened. So it's like, well, this is a tenured Harvard psychologist who's talking to these children and interviewing them right after it happened, and he's saying that he believes them. And then you got this druggy older guy who was like, no, I told him all was a lie. He probably didn't even see it.
He probably didn't see it. I'm guessing maybe some kids didn't see it and said they saw it. I don't think that's out of the realm of possibility at all to be part of the group.
He was playing hooky that day and just mad that.
Yeah, he was out smoking weed. He missed the aliens.
Or maybe he became a drug addict because he's like, I can't process this. And
maybe,
like, you know,
to be kind, yes.
I think it's hard for some people, like, and some of those people were like, you know what, I can't ignore this. And he's like, I gotta ignore this in order to stay part of the world I believe I'm part of.
Exactly. And John Mack was very careful to say, like, it could be aliens. Not saying that's what it is, but they are having an experience. It is legitimate. These people and Harvard tried to get rid of them first time ever because they don't fire tenured professors. They had this Star Chamber Cabal tribunal thing, and it leaked out, and that's the only way it didn't happen. They were shamed into not firing him. Plus, because he had been on Oprah and Maury Povich before believe it or not, Maury Povich, there was a time he was taken seriously. But he wasn't like, you are the father.
Well, I mean, John Mack was taken really. You got to remember who John Mack was. John Mack was like friends with.
Somewhat seriously.
He was friends with the Rockefellers, and he did projects for the Rockefellers. He was a major important. No, like the nuclear thing. He was part of the Scientists Against Nuclear. And so if aliens are like something that we're trying to get someone to get the word out about how they wanted to stop the nuclear thing, I'm not saying it's true, but like this is the guy who was he'd stopped nuclear proliferation during the Cold War. Reagan had heard him in his Scientists and Doctors Against Nuclear group. So he was really famous already. And for him to all of a sudden be like, okay, now that I've got this, I'm going to go and find out about, the legitimacy of people's experiences and apply that to not drugs, but alien encounters. That was the beginning of that.
You said that, though, is the legitimacy of their claims. It wasn't saying the legitimacy of aliens. He was saying something happened to them, and we should try to figure out what it is. Like,
he wasn't even interested in aliens to begin with. Aliens were just better than drugs. Like, he wanted to find something to study that wasn't
medicating your fucking patient all the time.
Exactly.
And by the way, that's what they wanted to get rid of him for.
Oh yeah.
They said he should have been medicating these people, so they were going to sue him for malpractice because he didn't want to medicate fucking people.
Well, not sue him, but get rid of his tenure. So, that was an excuse.
So John Mack was huge in this, that he did a lot of interviews in a lot of places. And I remember him, and died mysteriously 10 years later. Killed by a drunk driver in
he was murdered in a car accident. You can call it not murder, but I mean, I know the guy didn't mean to supposedly, but dude, like that's another one of those Palladian, like get him out of the picture kind of feels.
What doesn't get brought up, and I have to do more research on this. I'm remembering it from that time, but within that period in 2003, we'll say 2001 to 2004, a bunch of UFO investigators died.
Really?
Like there was a group of them, about 6 or 7 of them died within a 3-year period. And
Where did they all find out?
Don't know, but I have to go back and look at the info because
John Mack had interviewed Edward Teller, who was the father of the hydrogen bomb. So he was directly associated with that person who created the hydrogen bomb. Mack also, what was the other thing he did? I had this. Oh yeah, his lawyer that defended him during this whole thing, lawyer for the Pentagon Papers. Same guy. Huh. So
and a non-believer, and then
Carl Sagan.
Yeah, and came out of it going, you know what? Shit, I was pretty close-minded when it comes to like listening to these people and the whole subject of UFO and the concept of spirituality in this material world. And yeah, it's heartening to see that. I think it's cool. So that was a good one.
Yeah.
And then the fourth episode is that town.
Third episode.
Third episode. Sorry, as town in Wales. Wales, where there was another mass sighting at a school. Oh, there's another one they can talk about too that they didn't is the mass sighting in Australia,
right?
Where the teachers were straight up told, "You'll lose your fucking job." That's another great one because they do have a photograph of that one, and it's insane. And we've talked about it in the past on this show. So all these kids saw this UFO. One kid stayed inside, and the group of kids come in and say, "Hey, we saw a UFO," and he's like, whatever. And he goes, the lonely kid who stays inside all the time, which I think a lot of people can identify with, went out and he saw it too. And they all drew pretty much the same fucking picture. That was the crazy part.
They separated them.
They separated them.
And it was the cigar. It was a cigar
It was
craft.
eerie.
They drew
eerie.
They drew the cigar, which is like the most legitimate. If you look at the actual military UAP records and declassified documents, it's not a lot of disc copters. It's more cigars, so it's exactly what you would think of if you were, it was exactly what you would not think of if you were a child who would just watch a movie, but exactly what you would think of if you were an actual agent or something.
Yeah. And they all had that red light on top of it. And it was crazy. It was cool. And the thing is they're not just talking about the information. They do talk about like the ridicule that they go through, like all this. So a lot of them, that really answers the question, like, are you looking for attention? Are you looking for clout? Are you looking to make money? And most of them say, fuck, I wish I'd not seen this. Like, it gets such a pain in my ass. Nobody believes me. Everybody thinks I'm crazy. Yeah. It ruins relationships, careers. The woman who saw it from the hotel, they already thought her hotel was haunted. So she's like, I'm not going to say anything. We need customers. It's already bad enough that they think our hotel's haunted. And they recorded her conversation. There was a UFO investigator there who, at least most of the parents were pretty kind to the kids and believe the kids, like believe your kids, or at least listen to them. Right. So that one pretty good too. I think the pictures were the best part about it. There was one kid who heard all of this. Is kind of funny. Okay. So all the UFO flap that's going on, one kid ripped off a firefighting suit with a visor and walked around and scared people.
No,
and
that wasn't a kid. He was an adult.
That was a 19-year-old.
Wasn't it? Oh, yeah. That's an adult.
But then he had to stop when he almost got shot.
Yeah, he jumped into a bush.
He had to dive into a bush. And I love the song they used.
The other thing is, I don't think they should have maybe gone into the precedent for it, which is Wales and England have all of these long.
Oh yeah, yeah.
1561. There's all these stories of people seeing flying
fairies.
There's pictures of fairies and also There's pictures of cigars that some of these 11th century Frisian monks drew, which ended up in the Cotton Codex. And and then there's this bright, long, thing of light that's coming by. I mean, so it's interesting because we have precedent in the same place for a similar picture that's 500 years earlier. And I feel like they should have put that in there.
Yeah, well, they kind of danced around that a little bit. They had that guy who studies the mythology of the area. Yeah. Right. And he was talking about the I guess the Celtics or whatever the Welsh monks,
right.
Who would go out to that it's not even an island. It's a
stack of
rocks.
It's
a stack. It's a sea stack.
Again?
Yeah.
Sea stack.
A pile of rocks.
The Welshmen that went to an island and came back from a hill. Yeah,
I don't remember what it's called.
Stag rock. Stag rock. Was this
Stag rock?
Or sea stack, either way.
The context there is different, I'm sure, for stags.
But they talked about fairies and how fairies weren't before, Victorian era. The fairies of folklore were mischievous fucking assholes.
They still are. I don't think they've changed much.
No, they probably haven't changed.
Yeah, they still do that.
The fairy they have in Bright is a very accurate fairy. It's like this annoying thing that steals your food and wants to fuck with you.
Or your time. Have you ever been lost in the woods for 11 days? I have. Don't trust the fairies, bro.
I got lost. I got lost one time.
Yeah.
I did in Yosemite. Yeah, it's easy to get lost there.
There you go. See,
shit.
fairy,
Yeah.
and if you've heard about the fairy treaties and like the idea that they weren't ecologists who built all of these nature parks, like Roosevelt wasn't really that maybe the fairies were going to blow up Earth essentially if we didn't give them certain lands. And Yosemite and Yellowstone and big certain places that they're in Kansas, they just gave 200 miles of land to the state parks. BLM, Bureau of Land Management matters, right? So there's a lot there with the fairy treaties.
That's a Song of Ice and Fire, by the way. Children of the Forest. They gave the men the land. They were supposed to get the forest. The men then encroached again on them. That's why they created the White Walkers to fight the first men.
Interesting.
That is exact. Oh, it's gospel.
There you go.
It's literally,
Well,
I believe that's true.
George R. R. Martin studies mythology.
Whereas Adam says it could be true.
It could be true.
I need to see them.
No,
together.
Adam says that
me
about
quoting you.
Yeah.
That's me quoting you.
It's my new
That's not
favorite
me.
mantra.
That's not me
though.
saying that.
That's
Go ahead, Gary. Gary, what were you gonna say? You were gonna say something about me?
I said Adam doesn't think anything's true.
That's bullshit.
Adam questions everything.
It's true.
I think it's a good trait.
I do too.
I do too.
The last episode's
A
definitely
little annoying, but just kidding.
Oh, there's so much love.
Oh man.
I hung out with Adam for a long time. Had a great time. Had fun. We had
Dude,
tons
London
of fun.
was a blast. London
So
was a
much
blast.
fun.
That's true.
So, fourth episode, Fukushima UFOs. Something that doesn't get. I remember. You guys, I'm sure
I
remember
never
too.
even knew this.
Oh shit! They were being reported all the time. I was
I
obsessed
didn't hear.
with Fukushima. I was working late night at Technicolor when it happened, and I was spending my valuable job time searching YouTube and looking for. And there was a bunch of UFO, like tons of UFO reports, and they only put like one. No, there's two legit footage, two clips of legit footage, but there's so much more. There's tons, but those little lights. Well, I remember seeing those. I remember seeing those
And
when it happened.
personages. So there was a bunch of people in Japan that are part of I forget the name of that like eco-terrorist religion thing, but there was a bunch of people that were saying that they were seeing personages outside of it, and their belief structure was that the nuclear bomb that first hit like Nagasaki and all the original stuff, that those open portals, right? And the portals that make ripples on either sides of time. So going back, like there's a belief that the miso soup molecule, when the Japanese survived World War II, they're like, how are you doing this? Like, I don't know, we don't have anything but miso soup. But apparently miso soup was flushing out the radioactive toxins. And so this crazy enzyme that just happened to exist in Japan that was perfect, that was just there for them when they needed it. And so there's the theory that emerged even from physicists was that something was affecting forwards and backwards in time. And also that something might be coming through these portals, right? Which is like, so people talk about Godzilla and like these weird H.P. Lovecraftian things that were coming out of, the original atomic explosion. And people are like, well, calm down. It's probably just like the horrors of explosions and people were wrong. But no, there are a lot of people that still believe that in Japan. And so that when Fukushima happened, similarly, they're like, this is
An explosion that big.
Space-time.
There's I'm sure there's things we fucked with that we don't understand to this fucking day. But they remember we saw Oppenheimer. We sat through that 3-hour opus. There's some boobs in it. But they were talking about like we could possibly set the atmosphere on fire. It was a very small possibility, but it's possible. Just like the possibility at CERN that they could create a black hole that could suck the entire Earth into nothingness. It's a very slim possibility, but it's still a possibility. So
none of us would even know if it did happen.
No, probably not.
But
Yeah, I mean, we might be living inside of a black hole that's compressing us right now. That could be everything.
True.
Well, a lot of this stuff won't happen. We won't know until the last minute because of speed of light and stuff like that. Like if a certain what was that, a WR-74, the gamma explosion that they called it the Death Star, basically. So they think it's a star. They've observed it. It's dying, and it could already be dead, and we wouldn't know until the gamma burst gets here. No, it's not Betelgeuse. Betelgeuse, we aren't in the direct. This star, we're in the direct line of fire to the point where.
Really far.
I
To
think
the
it's
point,
gonna
no.
explode.
This star is where. What's the constellation with the guy shooting the arrow? Who is it again?
Ryan,
Yeah. So it's in there,
Alpha
and it's right at
Centauri.
the tip of his fucking of his arrow. It's right. It's located right where his fucking arrow is, which
Like
is
the
weird.
arrowhead.
I tend to
yeah.
believe in the stuff like that. I feel like there's
Yeah.
a reason it's that way.
So we would get a gamma burst. We'd get a gamma burst that would fry us all.
Wow.
That'll be fun.
But we wouldn't know it till it got here. We'd know like our sky would change color and then we'd be dead.
That's a big thing with the Tartaria thing. Last one I want to say about that is just that blue sky supposedly was created by some sort of the Alvera's hypothesis is that the iridium asteroid impact that we think of as ending everything. That before that we couldn't even see the blue spectrum and it's blocked out large amounts of our sky.
You do know that our sun is brighter now than it was in the time of the dinosaurs. It was like 1/3 the brightness that it is now.
Wow.
I did not know that.
Red, right?
Well, our sun is very unstable. Like if you read Robert Schoch's book that I told you to read last week, it'll properly scare you that the sun is not this really docile, fun little yellow light that's out there. Like it burps and farts and belches and goes nuts once in a while, and it can make for a very bad millennia here on Earth.
Well,
I
once
can
in a
imagine.
while, no, every day. Like I've been following this guy that Jimmy just interviewed, and he does a daily sun reading. Essentially, he's like, "Good morning, everyone. Like this is what's happened over the past 24 hours," and he's like, he breaks down every little bit of anything that comes off the sun, and you're like watching the sun, and he's showing you like what's happening. It's pretty cool. Also kind of scary.
It's stable now. I mean, that's relatively stable. We'll use relatively, right?
There you go.
So it's fine. We get an X flare once in a while.
But if a
fine.
solar flare took out like an internet civilization sometime before, I'd
Which it could.
I would have been less and less surprised if that's already happened. I mean, with Wi-Fi and biodegradable
We
stuff,
just had
you
the
wouldn't mind it.
Carrington event 150 some odd years ago, maybe a little more. That would have fried everything.
Mhm.
It fried the telegraph. The telegraph machines caught on fire.
Wow.
From look up the Carrington event. So if that happens now, we're in the 1800s instantly, and a lot of people will die because they just don't know how to live without the internet. So good thing would be is Twitter would be gone, which I'm not going on for the rest of the day or the rest of the week.
Hopefully, though,
So-
the Japanese and this Angel of Ariel school, this stuff is real. Because maybe it is that when a portal opens, some space time traveling thing comes through it and is trying to help us out. That would be nice. I
It
like
would.
that.
Well, that's the idea. But taking us back to encounters is that one. A couple of people were like, no, that like the UFOs showed up, whatever they were. They're unidentified flying objects. They were there. That they were surmising that Fukushima should have been worse, and it wasn't.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
they were talking about they did a reading. It was like 300 million, whatever the units in the. they
Oh, you're talking
scanned it
about
ag-
you're talking about Chernobyl.
Oh,
so-
that's Chernobyl. Oh, dang it!
So
That-
Chernobyl
yeah.
also has ghosts
No,
like that.
Let me hold on. But this is exactly the same kind of situation though.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
they said that once Chernobyl, when it happened, when it was on fire, when it was like peak like madness and like out of control, there's claims that a UFO actually showed up, and before this UFO showed up, and it was only there for 5 minutes. It was like 3,000 parts per million or something radiation. I don't remember. I think it was like that kind of number. And they said after the UFO left, they checked the levels again, and it went down to like 800.
800.
So it went from like really bad to okay, it's bad, but like not as bad.
yeah.
So I mean,
my
like, do you
thinking-
believe in time travel? Do you think it's possible at all?
Sure.
That someone in the future is going back and saving the timeline? And
I don't
can
think
It
that
might
be
that's
not
what
even
it
be saving, but it could be harnessing the energy from that.
I don't know if it's
I
timeline
don't
or
think
if it's.
that's it either.
If there's aliens and there's good ones, maybe they would come down and kind of help when they can, or maybe they just needed fuel for their ship.
I feel like the only people who would want to
Well,
help us are ourselves.
Well, let me give you what my experience of episode 4. So I watched it with my wife, who was in Japan in 2011 when Fukushima
That's
hit.
right. That's
Wow.
right.
She
Oh,
was
that's
in
scary.
Tokyo, and she said that the earthquake, she felt it for 4 days. She was hiding under a table for 24 hours straight. Like
Oh my
she
God.
remembers it. So like she was getting chills watching it because she loves Japan. She grew up in Japan when she was a kid, and she wanted to move there. That's why she was there, to like live in Japan. And
Brutal.
she was watching it, and right at the beginning of the episode, they show you one of the actual video clips that they have of those lights that were in a perfectly straight line, and then a couple went dipped down, and they all
Go into it. Yeah, that's so weird. And it looks liquid when it first shows up. It doesn't look a little liquid, like fiery. It's weird. It's so weird.
And she looks at me and she goes, "They're there to help." And I look at her because like I'd never seen or heard of a UFO showing up after an accident like this, right? That's kind of new, and it's new information to me that a UFO showed up at Chernobyl. I think we need to dig into that a little bit more because that's crazy.
Well, they showed up at all the nuclear.
Well, that's not an accident, or that's not like a nuclear meltdown, though, right?
No. What if they stop something?
So it's a little different. But she looks at me. She said, "They're there to help," right? And that was at the very beginning of the episode, and then the episode goes on to pretty much say that that's what the Japanese people think, because the cult, yeah, and believe, right? And it really is like one and the same, like the reality and the supernatural and the natural world that the Japanese people live in. It really is. There's no defining a difference between the two. They're like, yeah, it exists, something supernatural. And like these lights all started appearing after the Fukushima disaster happened. Everyone just was like, oh yeah, they're here. Those are the people that died that are here to help. Now,
oh yeah, the Hitodamas.
The Hitodama, yes, exactly. The smoke spirit kind of vibe, right? I think it's like a purple smoke spirit that comes. That's what they were alluding to what it was. But going back to the third episode, when the guy was saying about how if an alien were to live on this planet and be coming and visiting us, watching us, maybe like waiting until we reached peace, and if that's ever going to happen, but they're living down in the ocean somewhere. Fukushima, happens. Well, it's actually technically the earthquake that happened. I don't know the name of the earthquake, but then the earthquake happens. Of course, it was so strong it shook Japan for 4 days at least, and they're down in the ocean. And then boom, a major radioactive break happens. If they didn't help with that, it was dumping radioactive water into the ocean. It was. It might still be, actually.
They are. But I know I re-releasing it.
Yeah, they did. They just recently started re-releasing it because they had to.
It's fun to live in California, isn't it? Yeah.
Well, I remember I was living there at the time, and a bunch of fucking so. You see helicopters once in a while over San Francisco. It's not like LA. You ever lived in LA? It's a fucking helicopter flying over your head every 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Okay. True. It's not like that in San Francisco. During that time, there was helicopters flying up and down the beach all fucking day.
Yeah.
All fucking day for a month.
Santa Cruz is at the furthest point. Yep. So we got like a bunch of our boats were destroyed. It was like the only place that got hit. It was like, thanks.
Yeah. My mom got evacuated. She was in Maui at the time, and they had to evacuate because of the tsunami.
Yeah, I had a stomach ache, and I thought I was having an appendicitis. So I was taken to the hospital, and then the TV was turned on, and then I saw that it was, and then I realized I was fine, but other people weren't, and it was like, it was so brutal. Yeah.
Wow.
Helicopters are the California state bird. That is true. That is true, Rusty. That is so true. Especially in LA. Holy shit. The spotlights are out all the fucking time, man. Tricky.
I want to say real quick,
sure.
of all the people, all the interviews that I've watched about UFOs, I'm very much a skeptic when it comes to UFOs. The people in Japan talking about UFOs, I've never believed people more than them. The way that their culture is, for them to like come out and talk about seeing a UFO, it felt both natural and honest, and I was like, I believe that this guy saw something.
Yeah.
That right? I don't know. There's something about the way that they talk and about it, and the footage of those lights appearing over the sky over Fukushima, and I'm like, this. I don't know. I just.
I feel like if it's aliens, like you look at the Drake equation, and there's just so much room for that to be there. And as we're talking about, it's expanding, so there's even more. So if it's aliens, easy, and that makes plenty of sense. Probability is always going to be more. if it's not, the idea that we eventually become time travelers and we go back and do it ourselves is also completely reasonable to me. And I think that makes actually to me more sense that since we don't want to die in the future, we go back and protect John Connor. I feel like that's the most logical reason why we care, why anyone would care about us.
Yeah. I mean, like, if we're going to go to aliens, like, why not time travel?
Yeah.
Like,
True.
Yeah.
Like,
and at that point, like, if we're going to
drawing the line there,
if we believe it's possible, then we should literally start trying to work our way into controlling time travel so that we can go back and we can see this with the most miraculous, perfect timeline possible. And then that will explain every miraculous event. It was us. We're setting it up and we pick them out now.
Maybe.
It's like Interstellar, the way that they represent it. It's like you could just flow through all of it and it's all represented through that corridor of infinite realities, I guess. I don't know, whatever, you know, when he's trying to help her figure out the code. And I don't know, I could see that once you go into the next dimension.
Quarter Black, you okay?
Sorry, yeah, I'm here. I'm just having an issue with the FNT upload for the audio. There's some weird artifact going on.
What, on our last episode?
Yeah, not on YouTube, but on Spotify.
Oh,
I'm fixing it.
Thanks. Appreciate you, boo.
Miss you.
Yeah.
We miss you.
I've been listening
man.
the whole time. I've been here.
Are you liking the show? Is it okay?
It's a great show. It's a great show. I wish I could be here.
Tricky for $5 says aliens are trying to track Andreas. No, wait, that's the sun streaking through. Never mind.
There was one point that there was like a nice bright light crossing the whole screen.
I'm pretty convinced it's Palladians. Come on.
The Palladians. Well, what about the tall whites? The tall. Wait.
People.
I get to see my very first full eclipse of the sun.
Oh yeah.
In
Cool.
5-6 days. Yeah.
Where's it happening at?
It's like San Antonio. It's like
really?
Being in San Antonio, being in certain parts of Texas, you're gonna get like the full thing, the full Monty.
I went to Montana.
You're gonna get a box and poke a hole in it and do the. I'm
gonna do whatever I remember what they taught me in school.
I had a friend who did it without the glasses, and his eyes looked like messed up. Afterwards.
Yeah, no, you don't stare at the sun.
But I was standing underneath it, and it felt like some horrifying. You know when they put the ring on in Lord of the Rings, like it felt like that. It was just freaking terrifying. Honestly.
Oh yeah,
it was awesome.
You go into the world between worlds, basically, not the fucking dumb, stupid Star Wars one.
I saw a partial eclipse when I was like 6, like almost
going to
wow,
the land of the dead. Well, partial, half dead. Okay,
Hakate, yes.
Half dead. No, I think, now that we just had a global pandemic and World War III is about to start, I think it's a good time for a full eclipse. I'm sure there's no signs there. No signs at all.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, it's the 14th. It's the 14th.
Cool.
The Shadow. Gray Jedi for $1.99. Finally, Xirtus on Tartaria.
Well, yeah.
Tristan Hogan for $1.99. Love you, Gary. Where to start Doctor Who and how? If you're a new person to Doctor Who, I always say start. The classic fans get so mad at me, but trust me on this one. You start with New Who.
If you're new.
Yes.
Yeah, you start with New Who. You go to about season 8 of Capaldi. If you really want to know, I can pick you some episodes from 9 and 10 to watch that aren't woke, but they get pretty woke and stupid after season 8.
Yeah.
And then if you really love it, then you go back and watch the classic all the way up.
Unless someone's into 80s shows, if you're lucky enough to find someone watching Magnum PI or Quantum Leap, you can kind of just shove them into, like mid-Who, I think. But that's about time travel, Church. A good job. Doctor Who's like the answer.
It is the answer. Well, they do some fun time travel stuff in Doctor Who. They never really explain it, but they're not supposed to.
Right.
Full eclipse like in Heroes. That'd be cool. Save the cheerleader. Save the world.
Save the world.
I loved that first season. I did Fantastic Mr. Knox for $2 Australian. Then it went to shit because of the writer's strike. They also ripped off Straczynski's Rising Stars. So
I saw the first season of New Who, and I loved it.
It's great.
Oh, when did you watch it?
Years ago. And I started episode 1 of season 2, and I was like, this is the same guy. What the hell? All right, I'm done with this.
You gotta start it back up.
Never looked back.
Him, though.
You gotta start it,
He's
dude.
great.
It just starts getting good with season 1. That's just the beginning, dude.
I was surprised.
man.
I thought I was surprised. It was pretty good. Yeah.
But I didn't know anything about Doctor Who, so I didn't know there was different doctors.
Right.
I didn't know that
they regenerate. Yes.
Yeah, I mean, I knew nothing. I just watched the first season, and I was like, this is awesome. Oh, it's not the same guy?
Yeah. You'll likely like Tennant more than Eccleston, which is crazy to say because I really liked Eccleston.
Yeah, Eccleston I think he was good for 1 season. But Tennant came in and just owned the role. Just
oh my God,
owned it.
so much. Oh,
And then Matt Smith
Is that
is
the guy they
great
just
too.
brought back?
Yeah.
Yes.
Member Berry's bringing him back? Or is it
Yeah,
done
that's
well?
probably.
Oh, okay.
I don't. We'll find out in November.
Oh, it's they teased that he's coming back.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, it's not out yet. I see.
People are asking for you to do an episode on Doctor Who, and I just wanted to second that. Someday you guys should do that. That sounds awesome.
Yeah.
Oh,
Well, I'll be doing some stuff on Doctor Who next month for
Well,
sure.
I could sit and listen.
Yeah.
For sure. Well, it's at that time of year where I watch all the Christmas specials. So,
Dude.
I'm probably before the anniversary. I'm going to watch all of New Who. I'll watch it all the way through to season 8 of Capaldi. Fish Shooter 24 for $20 says, saw the total eclipse when I was in Oregon. Was really surprised with the temperature change. Does it do that?
Yeah. It feels
Makes
weird.
sense.
It just feels like, again, Lord of the Rings, Hobbit puts the finger on. You're like, whoo! Like, I almost
You're in
felt
the
like I was
shadow? That's
hearing
weird.
Wait, you
shadow.
get colder or hotter?
Yes,
Colder, for
cold
sure.
and hot. First
cold and
it's
hot?
super cold. It goes colder, but then you have this feeling because the sun's still there. So you have this. It's like a filter of what kind of.
And the
radiation
light
you're
is
feeling.
bending around and still coming at you.
And it feels black and white at the same time. It's a black hole sun. Won't you come? Yeah, it's weird, dude.
Black hole
Weird.
sun.
Okay.
I just covered that song yesterday.
Really? Sweet on
Yeah, I was learning how to play it on the guitar.
Dude, Super Unknown is a great album.
Dude.
Great
Rest
album.
in peace again. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
I got to see my first partial eclipse at work last year. That was pretty cool. Says
that's
fantastic,
cool.
Mr. Knox, for $5 Australian
Hey, what up,
dollars.
Knock?
The Black
What
Hole
up?
Sun guy was working with Chester Bennett on the human trafficking, child trafficking documentary, and then
Yep.
they died.
Really?
Yeah.
Mysterious. Yeah, mysterious.
Great show tonight. Thanks for introducing me to Andreas.
Aw.
I'll look for his
Good to meet
videos.
you,
Says
Buster.
Buster Nut Smash for $10. Buster Nut Smash.
That's basically listening to Andreas speak.
Would love if Andreas
2
I'll
hours.
take it as a compliment.
would love if Andreas was a regular on the show. Says Sledge for $1.99. There you go.
Anytime you want me back, I'm happy to. I hope I wasn't too annoying. Thank you very much for having me.
No,
No,
no.
you're great.
You're way less annoying than Adam. Are you kidding me?
Adam's one of the
funny-
coolest people I know.
Funny
That's
guy.
essential.
My favorite comment tonight was from Holy Fuck at 7:22. I copied it because I just in case this moment came up. He said this guy needs to organize his brain. Talking to Andreas, it feels like he's standing in front of a giant like computer screen or like in just in the Matrix looking at everything and going, oh, but this relates to this. And then if you know about this, you have to know about this, and that relates to this. And let's bring it all the way around with talking about this again.
Your
It's really
thought
hard
web must
because
be crazy.
if you're trying to do like the legitimate history of Tartaria for like normie fluoridated Netflix atheists, and also want to talk about space-time traveling aliens, it's like I want to draw the line for a second, but you don't have to, because a lot of people talking about Tartaria will get really deep into alien space-time travel and like multidimensionality and everything. So it's hard to, but I want it to be like, let's focus on the stuff that everyone needs to know, that this is the objective historical truth of it. And then we can go into like whether or not we can change space-time,
Gary, Garrett, X-Ray Girl, and Adam are all weird. Confirmed. Says Eric K for
Facts.
$4.99. Yeah, we're
Agreed.
We're weird. I never said I wasn't.
Weirdos.
What's up, Eric?
1 second. Fucking weirdo. How do I say this one, X-Ray Girl?
Pseudonymous.
There you go, for $10. Lars Anderson had great work on the arts of ancient warriorarchy. Watch Lars Anderson reveals the truth about the most viewed archery video. Shad is in it. Oh, hell yeah.
Ooh.
Love all. Thanks for what you do. Thanks for doing what you do. Cheers.
That sounds very useful, actually. in terms of warriors and iconoclasm. I will check it out, Lars.
Hell
Thank
yeah.
you.
Smooth the DJ has gifted one Nerdrotic membership for $5. Hail, Smooth. Thank you. Racelyn Majare, welcome as a traveler. Majeur. Sorry. Let's see.
Dragonlance. Sorry.
I'm dumb.
Yeah,
No, I should know force majeure. I've been reading it for like the last month. I should know it. Fish Shooter 24 has become a traveler. Tricky for $5. This is a sign that the end times are nigh. The show started early. Did we start early?
Yeah,
Yeah,
3 minutes
minute.
early.
3 minutes.
Why?
I
was
don't know.
excited.
You're the one who were like, all right, we're doing this. Get the fuck out.
Now we spoiled the chat. They're going to expect this all the time.
Only for FF.
No, you're keeping them on their toes. All right.
A wizard never arrives on time. Or wait, he arrives exactly when he means to.
I'm
going away.
There you go.
Swing and
That's
a
okay.
miss.
Rich Uncle Cheapskate for $9.99 says, I'm on the side that says aliens are peaceful. Human wages war over limited resources, but a spacefaring race would have access to unlimited planets and theoretically unlimited resources. Listen,
Including ours, yeah.
Yes. If there are aliens, I think it's a possibility that we are the future conquerors of the universe. And they're just
Or
keeping an
some-
eye on us.
Yeah,
You're
or some
watching
part
us.
of it. That's what
Yeah.
David Brin's Uplift's all about, right? Like we're the only species that doesn't have a master, and it freaks them all out.
What if that's what it is? What if we are the reason why they're watching us is because this is like their future school kids going like, wow, this is when they are almost spacefaring. Wow, this is amazing. They're starting to understand what gravity is. They're only 57 years away from manipulating gravity and getting out there. This is awesome, guys. This is so exciting. Who knows?
It could be.
And then we turn out to be like space Romans, you know.
Right.
Well, like the Uplift series is everyone's told like you get 100,000 years of slavery to the species which uplifts you, right? So you can become like humanoid from like a parrot, but you have to serve the species that does that for you. And they come to humans and they find that humans already have apes in space and dolphins. Like, well, that's pretty close to uplifting, but they don't have a master, so they're not legally allowed.
Because we
according to their
drove them
treaties.
out, the Anunnaki.
Well, that's a big argument that the uplifters are having, according to David,
Yep.
who wrote the post.
There you go. Turd Burglar for $10. Free time. First time listening, long time super
Sorbu?
chatter.
Oh, sorry.
I fight the urge to watch you guys live because I need great content to listen to at work. Love you guys. Hail to the fellowship. Hail to the 199. Hail to you. Thank you for the kind words. Greg Kahn for $2 Australian. Gonna smoke a joint and listen to alien ramblings. There you go, man. Burn away. I can't do that stuff, but I'm not going to judge you for doing it. You
In the
go
fourth
ahead.
episode, there is actual alien ramblings. This woman claims.
Oh my
that
god, when she does that, like
she like speaks to, she
Oh,
gets like
the light
messages.
language.
The drama teacher. Yeah.
The light language. Yeah, she
my
turns
God.
out
Speaking in
to be a
tongues.
drama teacher.
She's speaking in
I
tongues.
laughed at
right?
that. When I saw
I
drama
did.
teacher. My wife goes sus.
Listen.
I'm like, yeah.
Everybody's got the weird aunt who, can channel dead people and shit and crystals, and that was her. She was kind of cute.
Oh, yeah.
I thought she was funny. She's fucking weird. But she even said it. She's like, I'm weird.
She
did say
it.
Yeah.
She does, yeah.
But yeah, to find out she was a drama teacher, I laughed. I was like, oh,
Like, you know what?
of course she is.
To be fair to this, like drama teachers, if you ever studied like the freak drama class, like I had a Yale drama teacher who studied the Stanislavski method. They're all about like putting yourself. This is why actors go crazy because they imagine themselves actually being, and they get possessed. It's part of their training. So if anyone could be possessed in a medium these days in secular society, it's probably someone who went to like.
It could be, and
Juilliard.
they lose themselves, and that's why you're right.
Yeah.
That's why a lot of them go fucking nuts,
Yeah,
especially.
it's not as silly.
yeah.
It's pretty scary. Yeah.
Somebody, you know what? Somebody should probably do like psychological testing on
Sean Penn?
on actor. Well, Sean Penn has done like mountains of cocaine. Mountains of cocaine. I know a person who used to do
You're
cocaine.
doing pretty well for.
I
like,
know a
what
person
he
he used to
did,
get cocaine from. So, yeah.
Okay.
I don't
Was that
think
friend
he
in
does
the
it
Department of
anymore.
Defense? Just kidding.
I don't think he does it anymore.
Sure. He's buddies with Zelensky now,
He's got that triple
mean,
M research
Mr.
salt cap
Zelensky.
now.
He is
He's
a
okay.
fucking tool. He's always been a tool.
He probably traded his freaking Academy of War for like some Ukrainian coke.
Yeah.
You know who used
they
to
found
annoy me?
Bitcoin.
It doesn't annoy me anymore is Woody Harrelson.
Because he shot Kennedy or what? Why?
No, Woody Harrelson. Because I used to think he was just a dumb fucking climate hippie who would block bridges, which he did. But then he turned out to be kind of very, very seriously anti-authoritarian. So
he's a sobered up Hunter Biden is what he saw a lot in the inner part of like the Bush administration and his dad in jail and the things that Harrelson saw. Did you hear that they're trying to do a DNA test on?
Him and Matthew McConaughey.
Yeah. I mean, if you want to get into the taboo family,
that would be cool.
Wow.
Can we bring them back together for what's that?
Sure.
Show?
For the election,
an actual season 2? No.
True Detective. True Detective, dude. True Detective's the shit.
Let's just call it season 2 anyway.
We'll just call it season 2, and they're brothers.
Season 2. That's a good name for a show.
MMM Martin 261 for $9.99. I remember a study that said 19 nuclear explosions around the world would deplete the oxygen beyond a week's time to replace. Only children would survive. Light outside our solar system moves. Light outside our solar system moves 100 times faster. Really? Oh yeah, probably because of the. Vacuums. Does it get affected by the gravity?
But light can move just as fast if you have a laser in the front of, like Lockheed makes lasers in the front of their jets that burn a vacuum in front of the plane, so they can go faster by not. Yeah. So
I was watching Ancient Aliens, and they had some scientist who said that he was pointing lasers a certain way in a box, like a big box, and the time inside those lasers move. They were all moving circular. Was moving like a millionth of a second slower. So maybe like the first gravity wave. Remember we talked about them detecting gravity waves? It was the first time they ever done it. They found out what did it, and it was two black holes merging.
Also, like if you think of the Michelson-Morley experiments where they look at ether, like they didn't really disprove ether. Ether's pretty well more and more being discussed as a thing that exists. And the idea of space-time, like time is kind of pretty much time is defined as the degradation between state 1 and state 2 from atoms being destroyed by sunlight. But there's different suns and stars. So you could actually imagine something that has 1,000 years equivalent of degradation in one day as another thing. So maybe some other, like maybe something that lives in Alpha Centauri, maybe the Anunnaki, their sun that's taking 5,000 of these cycles to do one cycle. One day seems like 5,000 years on that world, or in space, like you're aging differently based on whether or not you're actually having degradation.
It's so strange. And cool. Andy plays games for $5. This is Forbidden Frontier. Why am I already 12 drinking game drinks into my Ghosts and Monsters show? Just kidding. Love you guys. Love you too, man. Tricky for $10. Get used to my new 8-inch telescope. I was wondering where this is going.
Yeah.
Telescope for the eclipse in October. In April, got solar filters just for this stuff. So hyped for it. Yeah, I have a telescope.
That's awesome.
I have a telescope. I got to find it.
I want one. I want one so badly. I have a
freaking
perfect deck right here on my second floor. Just nothing but stars. I got all the stars, man. It's amazing out here.
Get the one that you connect to your phone so you can get all these photos, you know.
Bubba Doom for $5. Encounters lost me first episode. They planted that scorpion next to the Texan on the porch. They took it too phony just for a stock shot. 5 out of 10. The
first episode sucked.
Watch the fourth episode.
The scorpion was not necessary. It was so lame. I know. I felt like, why'd you do that?
That happens a lot,
bro. I do what Top Gear does. Find a Top Gear always, not Top Gear, a Grand Tour and Jeremy Clarkson's Farm. Whoever edits and the camera work on those shows is some of the best camera work on the planet for shows like that. Like they are the best of the fucking best. And you know how they do transition? They find fucking nature shots. There was one transition where they have a bird on a perch, then they do their little thing, and then when they end the segment, they have the bird fly away. Now, probably nobody would have fucking noticed. I'm like, that was genius. That was genius fucking editing to find that. But yeah, you don't need to put a fucking scorpion. I've been in Texas for over a year. I haven't seen one fucking scorpion. I haven't seen one scorpion. Not one. I haven't seen a fucking. I haven't seen an armadillo either. I've seen a dead one.
Don't do a Top Gear.
I did pick up on that shot. I was like,
Top Gear did that thing where they got the license plate with the year of the war between the Falkland Islands, and they drove through Argentina and nearly got assassinated. Don't do that.
Yeah, well, no, they also drove through the South with LGBT, like "I love gay people" written on the side of their car, something like that. It's funny. They troll.
That's kind of punk. You know,
They troll. They troll.
Trolling's good.
Trolling's good.
The worst
yeah.
they'd get really would be
Yeah, it's not like Argentina where they literally were
they
stoned.
wouldn't
to
like
death
Jeremy
in the
Clarkson's
street.
banned from
a little
India, and all of the presenters are banned from Turkey for some reason. Not really sure why.
Rightfully so.
Oh shit!
I wouldn't want to go there.
I
The
wanna go to Turkey
Tartars.
so bad.
The
Except,
Tartars.
actually, there's some cool stuff in Turkey.
Oh, dude, yeah, I want to go.
Yeah, I can't wait. I'm gonna
Well,
go.
we can't go anywhere right
Dang
now.
it! Yeah,
which
no,
sucks.
no going over there right now.
Yeah,
I'm gonna go to
Not
Turkey
great.
next year.
our Egypt trip is not looking good right now.
What?
I'm really sad about it.
They just killed a tour guide and 2 Israeli tourists. The cop, an Egyptian cop, shot them.
Yeah, so gotta
What?
Stay away from that.
Yep. Eric K for $1.99. The Tartars made it to Finland and were there. There you
Yeah.
go.
If you look into Friesland, yeah.
Jake Skywalker for $1.99. There were the U.S. sites built before 1492 by others.
Yeah, there's a bunch of that. I don't know how much time you want to go into, but yeah, you can find tons of examples of that. In fact, the Deseret mission, where like the Mormon American military, they went through the Southwest, they actually found a bunch of spots where they're trying to rebuild what they thought were lost temples and civilizations. And you've heard all that stuff with, the Anastasia and everything. But yeah, New Amsterdam, if you look at Harlem, if you look at Indianapolis, there's a lot of things that were built or rebuilt. The Empire State Building was actually like a lower tower. They took it and put it on top of a larger tower. Like things were disassembled and reassembled. And then you can see this by star forts, which we really didn't get that big into. But Wall Street was a star fort. Wall Street is the wall of one of the walls of the Bastion Fort that New Amsterdam was, and they tore down that wall, which is why you have Wall Street now. It's the way they got into New Amsterdam and turned it to New York. And there's plenty of these little stars, but I
heard St. Louis is also built on a star fort.
St. Louis is star fort, Lima Peru's star fort, all of the Mario Brothers looking towns of Copenhagen and Holland, they're all star forts. San Francisco's a star fort. Florida's built on a star fort. There's like 6 of. If you go to Texas, you start typing in. If you look up starfort.org, I think you'll find maps of them. Tons of bases, military bases, ended up becoming forts.
I feel like this is another. I know you got a lot of
It's
information.
going to be
on
another
Star
topic.
Fort.
Yeah.
I want to know a lot
yeah.
more, and it's already 3 a.m. for me.
We should do a follow-up.
I'm gonna wrap these up.
Star?
We're gonna get out of here. The Singing Tigs for $5 says, any of y'all see the channel Neural Pathways? Not put much in the way of videos, but plenty of interesting posts. Might help with some topics. Hail, I'll check it out.
Thanks.
Oh my god, I follow Think Tank on Twitter. I don't know if that's that's the name of the channel, and they put up some pretty good UFO stuff once in a while. God, I saw a good one yesterday. Fucking good one. Maybe once I get enough collected, because I bookmark everything, we'll do a UFO footage episode. That will be
Just
fun.
like go one after
watch
another.
it.
Just
one
boom,
after
boom.
the other, watch it,
Yeah.
and then
Yeah.
That'll be great.
we'll analyze it.
Yeah.
Vertigo for $20. North and South American natives have very interesting slew of alien interactions, from abductions, horror stories, to healing of disease and addiction. RB Six Killer Clark, cool name, cooler stories. A recommendation. That is kind of a cool name. Zorbu, this is one of 2. Quarter dark human accused me of sneaking into his room at night and sitting on his chest, and that he doesn't like it. Well, to be fair, with a mug like yours, I guess I got confused with and tried to probe the wrong end. Hey-oh!
Zorbu's so mean.
Wow.
Stop sitting on my chest.
Zorbu's getting mean. Coincidentally, I will be performing in Atlantis City at Klaatu's House of Laughs early in December. Reserve your tickets today. Enter promo code PROBE for $10 off.
Hail Atlantis.
Oh my God. Jokes.
Totally unrelated. Joe Rogan just is going to do a live show in Austin. I could have bought tickets. I'm sure they're sold out by now. Yeah. And I decided not to.
the
Too
mothership?
much shit to do. At the mothership, yeah, on Tuesday.
Yeah.
Joe
Maybe
Rogan
we'd
and
like to
friends.
see
Maybe
his show there.
maybe Dave Chappelle shows up like he did last time. That was cool.
Secret.
But I didn't want to drive to Austin. I'm like, oh, it's only $40. I'm like, but I have to drive to Austin. And nobody will go with me. Fuck that. No thanks.
I'd go. We'll just line it
I'd
up.
go.
I'll drive 3 hours, then you drive 3 hours. We'll meet in the middle.
Fly
It's not 3 hours for me though. Well, you want me to drive 3 hours so we can drive back down?
Wait, what is it for you?
Austin
it
for
Joe
me is like
Rogan
an
and
hour and
Friends?
20 minutes.
Oh,
Yeah. It's Joe Rogan and
3
Friends
hours to go
Wednesday
see
night. Do you want to go? Tuesday
There's
night?
still. It looks like there's still
Tuesday night?
tickets.
What time?
Yeah, it looks like there's still tickets.
Yes, you good.
Pick up the 2 tickets, Garrett, and I'll pay you back.
The mother's.
I'm good for it. Well,
Well, the 10 o'clock showing. I was at the 10. Oh, for Tuesday. Never mind. You want a Thursday?
Tuesday. Yeah, Tuesday night.
Tuesday.
I'll be
There's
done with my
also
video by then. So
Wednesday.
we'll Garrett.
And
Kyle Daniken.
Kyle Dunn, yeah, but that's not Joe Rogan and
Sunday.
Friends. Maybe he's part of Joe Rogan. We want to see Joe Rogan because Joe Rogan and Friends, he'll like bring out some like fucking cool people with him. Last time, Dave Chappelle.
that's
that was
pretty cool.
That was fucking cool. He was fucked up and still did a great set. But Kill Tony was the best. The guy from Kill Tony was
Oh, yeah?
fucking the best. Darkest motherfucking comedy I've heard in a long time. Is so good. So good. Maybe Kurt Metzger will be there. Not Tim Pool for $2 says, you guys are wrong.
Classic.
I'm still not convinced it's not him pull though.
Dude, that profile pic of him with a mustache
The
is the
mustache,
funniest
the big
fucking thing
mustache.
I've ever
So funny.
seen. Oh my god. Oh my god. I'm so happy everybody was partying over the weekend. Jimmy Collins for $2. Cosmos created in 6 days could be destroyed faster. Sure.
Especially if it days 1,000.
I think things happen over bazillions of years, and I think shit happens way faster than we think it does. Like
Some things have time different than we do.
I think we don't know anything.
WG has gifted 5 Nerdrotic Live memberships. Hail, brother. WG. Hey, are you going to Palm Springs, WG? You going to Palm Springs? Let me know. Stefan Callan for $1.99. I'm just like, he can't answer. And don't answer with a super chat. Don't. You could text me. Mud Flood, joke about people watching while on the toilet.
Hey,
We've all had our
Wow.
own personal mud floods at some point in life, okay? The Happy Plague Doctor for $5. The X-15 went like 6,000 miles an hour. Shit, that's fucking fast. I was
can it
think- I was
turn on
think-
a
I was
dime?
thinking more of the
That's
turn, like, and yes, no human can. Was it a drone? 2008? I don't know.
So 72.
But this wasn't a little thing that they saw. Incidentally, it was a fucking huge thing that they saw. Like a football size, kind of like the Phoenix Lights. Japanese Demon Lord for $5. The X-15 in the Smithsonian went Mach 6.70. That's 4,520 miles per hour in the 50s. This is the public knowledge.
That's what I'm saying. Sorry. But it didn't turn on a dime with a person in it, which is true, except we do have
And
gyroscopes.
it's not the size of a football field. So
Well, we do get some pretty big. The SS-72 is pretty big.
not the size of a fucking football field.
Son of Blackbird's.
It's
maybe
not a
a third,
giant
maybe a
square
half.
thing
Wide.
with a bunch of lights
Wide.
under it.
The Phoenix
that
Lights
doesn't-
ones was even
okay.
bigger than that.
And
Look at
what
Son
do
of
they do?
Blackbird.
What do these things do? They make sound. This thing did not.
That's a good point. That's a good point.
And this thing did not make a sonic boom. This thing, no exhaust. It
But-
just went,
If it has a laser that makes a vacuum in front of it, it won't make sound.
sure.
Oh.
Probably
And
check
if
out
we have
Ancient
that,
Aliens.
Amazon would have it already, delivering my shit, and I wouldn't have to wait 2 days for my Halloween costume, okay? Which I
Okay.
got, by the way.
And Az could get his on time.
Consumers
As-
deserve
as-
Feel
that.
bad for him, dude.
What is, dude, Az can go on eBay and get his costume tomorrow. I don't know what he's bitching about.
He probably got a really good one that's showing up the day after.
Do you know? I can't tell the
I got a
audience.
good costume idea too,
I don't know what it
Gary, and
is,
it's not the one we talked about. It's a different one. It's gonna be
Okay,
easy.
well, if it works, it
Put it in the
works.
chat. I want to see.
I don't want to tell you.
Works. We're gonna surprise you.
okay.
Friday Night Tights. We're gonna
surprise.
surprise you with our costumes. By the way, Basil 578 for $2 says UFO equals U.S. military plausible deniability for a lot of things. But okay, don't let a good disaster emergency go to waste. So I would not put it past the U.S. government to use something they don't really know that much about, is UFOs, as an excuse to ramp up the war machine in between orchestrating invasions or funding enemies to keep the war machine going. Always got to keep that war machine going. Sturgeon
Eisenhower tried to
510.
warn us.
Yep, for $5. Have you heard about the supposed ancient utopian civilization in the Arctic? I have. And maybe, like, that's miles of ice. We don't know shit what's under that miles of ice. And we know that it used to be a very temperate, tropical climate. Turd Burglar for $5. We'll be listening to this stream at work tomorrow on my forklift. Are you a licensed forklift driver? So am I, and so is Jeremy from Geeks and Gamers. Looking forward to it. Makes my boring job bearable. Thanks for the great content. Cheers.
You're doing
Thanks for
important
listening,
stuff,
man.
You're doing good. You're working. That is important.
You're a Hyperborean forklifter.
Yep. Matthew Hammond for $4.99. Pixar's cost at Donnie's were, what does it say?
Cost and the Donnies.
And the Donnies were darker. There is also a Time Life parody of Klaus Schwab singing different songs. I will email them to you later. Oh, please do. Like, AI is great for memes. It's so fucking great for memes.
I'm making good stuff now.
Japanese Demon Lord, $5. During the eclipse, pay attention to the sounds. The animals go nuts. It's crazy. Ooh, I will. Fantastic Mr. Knox for $5 Australian dollars. If you guys ever come down to Australia, I can show you where Westall is. Westall is where the school was. I live about 8 kilometers. What the fuck's a kilometer?
1.2,
Like a little less than a mile, right?
It's half of a mile, less than half a mile.
It was half.
0.6.
Wow.
It's
Less than half? I thought it was less than
5
one.
miles away.
I'm an American. I just have to ask that. From the suburb, county as you'd call it. Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, Westall is a great case. Cheesy Tarian for $5. Quarter Black Air at the Spotify upload on FNT. The audio is jacked. Please fix it. Upload last
It is
real
fixed.
BBC. Okay. Man, you guys are just bossy. I don't even talk to Quarter Black like that.
I fixed it.
Quarter's
He's
way
way
worse.
worse.
I
Thank you,
fixed it 'cause
Cheesy
Way
Tarian.
worse.
Cheesy
Quarter.
Tarian, thank you for listening to us on Spotify. Please let us know. I have no idea who watches us on Spotify. I check the analytics once in a while. They're pretty fucking good. Yeah, I uploaded a video a while back. We got to get on Anchor, Garrett.
Yep.
So you can get video on Spotify for every episode.
Yeah.
Tricky for $2. Adam got so heated he broke his mic. I think he's just clumsy.
Get
I think
excited.
he's just clumsy. Adam's actually a
is.
pretty chill dude.
It is broken.
Turd Burglar for $10. Can X-Ray Girl read? Oh,
I don't know what this means. I tried to figure it out, but my uncle privately ice wall Oakham. Oh, I know now.
Aw.
Shame on you.
For the
Jack.
gift trip.
gave his youth fighter for us in Asia. Hail to him. I'll finish it for you. How dare you do that to my producer? That is my job.
Say it out loud, actually, to hear it.
Fantastic, Mr. Knox. Oh, good day, Craigs, for $2 Australian dollars. And Potato Radio for $5. Hey, sent the first half of the super chat and said Gary, Atlas Obscura, and 3 Thor Heyerdahl for the Canadian branch. Love the conversation rate, and you all. Love you too. Thank you for sending all those books. They're going to go into my research, my paranormal research library, which is right behind. You can't see what I'm pointing to, but it's a closet that's got a X-Men Mystique movie banner over the door. I can't move my camera. You'll just have to trust me that it's there. Josh Kelsey has dropped 20 and just walks away because he's a Chad.
That's what he does.
Fucking Chad.
That is what he does.
Fucking Chad.
Yes.
Japanese Demon Lord for $5. My father and grandfather worked black projects during Nan. What? Nam or Nan?
Oh, probably Nom.
I
Nam.
think I'd be black.
What was Nan?
What if it was Nan? I don't know.
Yeah.
They always told me what the military shows is secretly 30 years behind what they have. I've heard they've had, okay, so they are
It's generally
testing
the-
things 30 years ahead. They have things in application that are actually working 10 years ahead. So the shit that they're using stuff right now that they are not going to tell us about for 10 years.
Or it could be like 60 years. Like, I think there's some stuff. There's some stuff people just kind of ignore.
I think certain things, yes. I think certain things they are doing, especially with biotechnology and gene splicing and diseases and stuff. I think they're fucking with all kinds of stuff that's nuts.
Flag factories are real, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I watched
think-
this video from Mike Rober where he was making like super shrunk down Nerf guns.
Nerf
My
guns,
kids were watching
I saw
it.
that.
And they have a lab where they can
Crunch Labs.
3D print, and it's not his lab. They can 3D print
right.
any shape out of DNA.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he made like trillions of tiny Nerf guns out of DNA.
Also, if you think about all the technology,
What could you build?
DNA, and then
they put another
piece them
DNA
together. Yeah.
And then they have like blocks of DNA that are shapes that can keep those like the.
And if you think about World War II
frame
sonar
that
and
it's
radar
crazy.
and like all the radio antenna technology that we had right around the time that they're starting to make first contact or they thought they were, I mean, we've forgotten more than they knew. Or they forgot more than we'll ever know, rather, about radio technology in the 40s and 30s. I mean, there's so much that we don't think about that they did in the 40s.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. That like we've degraded a little bit because the corporations have put patents on so many things to keep the technology away from the people. Like that's a real thing. There is a battery that will run forever.
Yeah.
That they will never release. And maybe it's because what it runs on isn't lithium. It's something that's super rare that we can't just mine. The reason that
there's a stack of metals actually in Britain. We'll do it another time, but it exists. Yeah.
Yeah. Like fucking mining lithium is like archaic, but we still do it because that's what the system wants us to do. They say, oh God, it's definitely a thing for another time. But there's like, we don't need to be putting in fucking like a battery that weighs 1,200 fucking more than that. I can't remember the weight. It's fucking heavy. The battery on the bottom of a Tesla that can, by the way, very easily catch fire and not be put out. Like burn you so fast, so quick. It's horrifying. I think I'm out of my NDA now. I can tell you that stuff. It's you do not want to get in a fiery crash in a Tesla. You just don't.
Ooh.
You don't.
Yeah, I'll stick with my old fossil
Even
fuel
if you're
car.
the other car, if you're around a Tesla, be very careful. Be very careful.
I was going to say, the thing is called the Oxford Electrical Bell. So if you have time, look that up. But that's the thing that you can watch, and it's running forever. And it's a electric battery that's made of metal to run forever. And it's just a bell that rings. It's been ringing for hundreds of years.
And they've had it for like forever, and they keep it from us. So like, and they slowly release it out when they need to. Like they've had engines like the hybrid engines that were big 20 years ago and stuff. They could have done that a long fucking time ago. Like a long time ago. I've got this, we got this Chevy. Like it's like insane gas mileage. Fucking ridiculous. It's a little turbo, like fucking 3-cylinder car that hauls ass. Like this is one of the fastest cars I've ever fucking driven, dude. And it's like the littlest engine. So they can do it. It's fucking ridiculous how fast that car. I thought it was my wife got it. I'm like, what the fuck is this? It's a little Chevy Trailblazer, right?
Oh, yeah.
And they fucking haul ass. Their 0 to 60 is unbelievable. Yeah. I'm like, what the fuck? I had an RSX that couldn't go that fast. I was like, holy shit, this thing's fast. I like it now. Turd Burglar for $10. I'm sorry, X-Ray Girl. Couldn't help myself. Love you. Logan Miller, welcome as a traveler. Japanese Demon Lord, $5. The SR-71 Blackbird first flew missions in the 60s, but the first public that didn't know existed for 20 years later. That's right. Then the X-Men made it their bird, their plane. All right. That's it. Thanks for staying a little longer. We did it. Adam, thanks for staying up till 5 in the morning.
You stayed up the whole time.
I did it. Well, my boy Andreas is on the show. He joins me every Monday. With Garrett.
Oh, so you'll stay for your boy Andreas, but for us, fuck us.
You were just hoping I was going to
No, just you.
Okay.
Wow.
Right.
Yeah, don't say that to Garrett. Leave Garrett alone.
X-Ray Girl's fantastic. Garrett's awesome too. I mean, those guys. But you?
I get no respect at all. What the hell?
No respect.
I love your fights on Twitter. It's fun.
Yo, so many people were mad at me like I was serious. Like I was calling you out, and they were like, "You're a fucking dumbass." You think and I'm like, well, this is my boy. Like, what do you say? What are you mad at me for?
I know. I think Jeremy had to go on a live stream and explain. It's like, guys, they're roasting each other. It's fine. That's what we do.
They're boys. It's even worse after we met and hung out in real life. Now
now it's
fucking on.
Now it's fucking on. Yeah. Oh yeah. Nothing brings me more joy in life than roasting my kids and my friends. And they roast the shit out of me.
Right.
You should see the shit my kids say to me. My kids think I'm a fucking idiot. I don't care. It's funny.
I mean, they're smart. You raised them right, obviously.
They really are smart. So no,
they
my
know
wife
a piece of shit when they see one.
Screw it. My wife gives me shit all fucking day. It's great. I love it. That's our love language.
Too.
That's our love language. Roasting each other.
Yep.
All right. So Adam, what do you got coming up, buddy?
Well, I got Base Half Monday. It's awesome with these two lovely gentlemen, and we just talk about whatever we talk about. We often just fly down rabbit holes. This guy brings us down. We call it down the rabbit hole with Xirtus. I'm looking for someone to make me some sort of like a graphic.
Yeah, we need like a stinger
that I can play, like a stinger. It's like whenever because he goes off. Obviously he took us down with him today. It was glorious, though. I mean, it's fantastic.
It was fun. It was fun.
Thank you. And then I do a daily show, including Base Half Monday, and then I go the rest of the week. Tuesday, Georgia Giant Slayer joins me. Tuesday Titans. We talk like more political stuff. Base Half Monday is just kind of like whatever. Wednesday I go solo. Thursday I got my buddy the Fern who's joining me now. He's just one of my oldest running friends. Just love that guy, and it's more for a reason for me to hang out with him. And then Friday nights I do kind of like a quick hits of news stories that I found during the week. It's pretty fun, actually. It's a little different than my normal show. It's like 5 or 6, 7 things. I just kind of do like this quick thing. Then I end the show and go over to my locals and I jam out and just hang out. Last Friday I did like an hour set just playing music. People were giving me I played that 9 Inch Nails song and they're like, "Oh, play this song," and I look it up and I just figure out and play it, and I'm just having a blast. So it's over on my locals channel.
Cool.
So, yeah.
Garrett, what do you got coming up?
Base Staff Monday with Adam and Andreas and all the great guys that we do the show over there with. And Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday is Normal World with Dave Landau.
Just normal.
Where, weird shit happens all the time. So it's getting weirder every week.
Because you're weird.
Yeah, I kind of like that.
You never know what's going to happen.
The more normal the world, the scarier it is.
Yeah, it's not supposed to be a normal world. It's supposed to be kind of like an opposite of that. X-Ray Girl.
I'm going to be on Simpcast after this, so find me over there. Tomorrow is Thanksgiving, so we are taking a break from the Doctor Who review, and we have Kelly Jones on Poor Choices.
Canadian.
Again, he was amazing. I know, Canadian Thanksgiving.
Yeah. We have 3-day weekend, too. Tomorrow's, my kid ain't going to school tomorrow.
Oh, really? What day is it? Is it a day? Or just some
Tomorrow's
random
Monday.
We should
holiday?
take Canadians' Thanksgiving and keep ours, and we could have two.
You have two.
like
You can still do it if you want. Just
What's the holiday? Why is my kid getting a 3-day weekend? I have no fucking idea.
What holiday is it?
He just said, maybe he's lying to me. His mom's out of town. Maybe he's all, Dad, got a 3-day weekend. I'm like,
hooky.
I told you they're smart. They know.
Sub to Poor Choices. I'm excited for it. And yeah, there's another super chat. I'll just pop it.
Yeah, my kid's Christian school's taking Yom Kippur off.
Oh, Columbus Day.
That's cool.
It's Columbus Day. Yeah, it's Columbus Day.
Columbus.
It's Indigenous People Day. Heard Tesla is using batteries from Biden. What's BYD? I don't know what that is.
I don't know. Is it from nuclear? I don't know.
I can tell you where they dispose of them when they need to dispose of them. China.
Can you?
Oh, BYD is the electrical powerhouse in China that's producing. Yeah, it could be.
Yeah, and they're disposing of them in China. Yes.
Next year, a bunch of radioactive.
What are my thoughts?
Yeah.
I don't fucking like it.
Radioactive batteries are coming out. They're going to have like radioactive salts from the old nuclear like salts, and they're going to put them in batteries and you shake them up and they'll last for 10 years.
I could bring Ryan on here and he could explain like where nuclear is extremely safe. Yeah. Extremely safe. And we should be using it. Yeah.
I agree with that.
I could get an oil corporation to make propaganda that would completely,
Yeah. Yes. Easily, right? Right. Andreas, dude, thanks for coming on. It was a pleasure talking to you. We're definitely going to have you back. What do you got coming up?
Well, okay, so I've got Sync Tank on Tuesday, which is like a synchronicity with like Kabbalah and like looking at the news from like that side of things. Wednesday, we do Wednesday Ultra, which is kind of looking at it from like CIA mind control side of pop culture society of things. And I'm doing a bunch of interviews right now about time travel and religion. I'm talking to the great grandson of Joseph Smith. I'm doing an interview with him. So yeah, it's a weird channel. You guys are definitely going to want to watch it. It's rad. Thank you. Xirtus.
Xirtus. Hey, those bombs are so safe. And they're also, they put little LGBTQ plus representation, like little stickers on them now. They are so safe until they kill everybody.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, and base
and inclusive.
Still,
and
the death rate, though, is way lower on nuclear.
Okay, quick question. Answer it just yes or no, Andreas, if you're capable. I'm kind of not, so
yes
I'm not judging.
Only? Okay.
Mandela effect, real or not?
Oh my God, I don't have time for this.
Let's just no. The answer is yes or no, right?
Yes or no.
If the answer is not no.
But hold on, Andre. Wait. Before you say anything, Andreas, if a yes or no is just one word, then all right, you have to answer with one word
because it can't be no. It's yes.
Yes. Okay.
Yes.
That's it. He said yes.
He said yes. He said yes.
Okay.
He said yes.
That's a
all right.
Hey, look, guys, I know him. That's a fucking trap. I'm
That'll be
in
part
between you two.
Part 2 with Andreas.
Adam so much for knowing me. Adam knows me so well.
I will break my microphone.
He's like,
No.
Again.
It's already
the trap
broken.
up. Don't step on the
shit.
carrot. Good job.
All right, it's in my notes for the future. We will talk about this.
Thanks for joining us. Do we know what our homework is for next week, X-Ray Girl?
No.
Not yet.
What are we
It's
talking
gonna be something spooky though.
Something spooky.
Spooky conversation.
We'll put it in the
Watch
comment
TV.
section. Just give you guys some chance to look it
Give me
over.
heads up.
for
Yeah,
next show.
comment. What should we talk about?
Yeah.
What do you want? Ghosts?
Jack Horse.
Witches?
Put it in the comments. We're not going to
Demons, we
sit
already
and wait
did
right
that.
now.
Mhm.
After you say we
Scary
suck,
alien.
tell us what you want.
Right.
That's always included. You suck. I want some ghosts. I'd like some ghosts. Please.
All right.
Witches. Ooh, witch hunt.
Witches. There you go.
That might actually be an
Interesting,
interesting
interesting.
episode.
No, now that they're not
Keep 'em
in
coming,
Magic
keep 'em
Gathering anymore.
Thank you.
Oh yeah, the Wiccan. They've taken them out.
Matthew Hammond says Stargate has a rectangular ships that take a larger role in Stargate Atlantis for $4.99. Right on. Right on. Thanks, Matthew. Okay, we're gonna go.
Love you guys.
Love you guys.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Welcome, travelers, to the fringes of reality, where the strange and mysterious meet, and the thin veil between fact and fiction is torn. Welcome to the Forbidden Frontier.